We'll start it. Okay, great. Namaste, everyone. I think welcome to another video by the Pai Team. I think we'll be talking finally about Bharani nakshatra. So we'll start with UG's prayer act. Go ahead, UG. Thank you.
Hi, all of you. First, before beginning with Yamraj invocation mantras, I wanted us all to just sink in to the beauty of Yama and dispel some of the superstitions about the invocation of Yama so that we can all do the prayer properly. And please, if you are able, please face south if you are able. If you're going to have faith in the superstitious part, then I would ask you to consider to also have faith in the part that describes that every being has a certain number of heartbeats. If we do this prayer to Yama, it's not going to invoke some inauspicious thing in your home. That's impossible. If you believe that part, why not also believe the part in the Purans that says that Chitra Gupta is counting the breaths and the heartbeats and so on and so forth. So let's bring forward the auspicious relationship to Yama, the healthy relationship to finalizations and endings, and the beauty of what this actually is. So I have a beautiful form of Yamraj here. If you're able, please face south. Yamaya Namaha. Kritantam Mahisharudham Dandahastam Bhayanakam Kalapashadharam Krishnam Dhyayet Dakshinaditpatim. One more. Om Yamaya Namaha. Mahishattayamagacha Dandahasta Mahabala Rakshatvam Dakshinadwaram Vaivasvatta Namostute. Om Dharma Rajaya Namaha. Om Dhumurna Priyaye Namaha. You guys, I was just going to give a small introduction to Yama Dev, just holding who he really is, and moving forward before the gentlemen bring their pieces, profound pieces on Bharani nakshatra. Just wanted to honor the Devata. Yama is not commonly brought into the home, so on and so forth. So therefore, I just wanted to open properly. Now, these mantras, this is the Deepam mantra, and this Mrutyuna, Pasha Dandabhyam, this one can also be done in the same meter on the right Trayadashi, okay? This one here is the names of Yama. So these are just mantras that I wanted to give all of you. And let's for a minute contemplate how present Yama, this essence, this intelligence is in our daily life, literally from womb to tomb. He's present and visibly present in all of this world. Everything has a time limit. And this time limit is actually celebrated in the Purans in many cases. There are cases where it's not, of course, but there's stories where there's perhaps a time period where Yama is doing tapasya. And what happens is there's no death during that period. And the devas and the even Mahavishnu has to come to him and say, please, return to Buloka, because it's just filling up and getting so heavy with life that there's no freedom. She's so heavy. She can't bear the weight of everything multiplying and not ending, there's no transformation happening. It's just stagnant. So he returns, and it actually lessens the burden of the earth. We're born, and henceforth the symbol of Bharani nakshatra, which is the nakshatra belonging to Yamraj. Very beautiful nakshatra. It's called the star of restraint, and I'm sure the gentleman will talk more about this. The symbol is a downward facing triangle, or yoni, the female yoni. Now, that area in a female's body is full of restraint. You have the uterus, it holds the baby inside of it. So it is the seat of reincarnation. It's nothing but this. The freedom ends the minute you go back into the womb. So the whole thing is restraint to the body. And we're going to discover that every story that goes along with Bharani Nakshatra and Yamadev is actually more about freedom and release versus restraint in a human body. Okay, so the womb of the female is this place of restraint. You are now back in the womb. You are restrained to this body, and you will take a human birth in which you have this time limit going, that you are born, you grow, you hit a peak of growth, just like the cycles of the moon. If you look down here at this cycle of life, it mimics the moon exactly. It's tiny little moon, all the way to the point of growth, and then you start waning again. That's why moon is Janma. Moon is not how you feel. That's all the planets are associated with feelings. Moon is Janma, cause of birth. It is the womb. Okay, so from womb to tomb, a human being's experience is this growth, waxing and waning. And so Yama has this special job, according to the Purans, of recycling, putting you back in a womb, an appropriate one, some kind of divine intelligence that makes sure that things go where they're supposed to go, to balance the whole system. See, Yama is always thinking about the whole system and its balance, not just one individual. So it's very distinct in the stories of Yama. He's being fair to all living beings, not just humans. He's actually very compassionate towards all living beings. There are stories where he delivers heavy sentences to a human because they've harmed animals, for instance. So his intelligence is working on this level of, weighing, so to speak, and balancing out the so-called negative positive energies of whatever you've invested in, and then delivering the fruit of that. So of course, naturally he's feared, but perhaps not for the reasons many of us are so inclined to fear him. If we should fear anything, perhaps it's birth. I don't know. All the gods tend to be fearing taking a human birth in these stories. So I have some just little points about Yama here that some of you may or may not know. He's referred to as Kal very commonly, even more than Yama. You will see his name is Kal. And there's even stories that he, like Brahma and Indra come to him, and they have this tendency, both Brahma and Indra, they have this tendency to think that they're very profound, that there's no one like them, that they're original. And Yama, Kal, he laughs. He's like, I've eaten many of you. His response is, I've eaten many of you. So he's even given permission. He explains this, as a matter of fact, to Indra Dev, that he's given permission to eat even Brahma at the end of the cycle, Mahapralay. So he was literally seen as Kal itself in all of its material and sukshma or subtle forms. Kal has many levels. Time to us on this earth is very different than time to the devas, time on those different lokas that the Purans speak about. The time is different. So he actually is presiding not just over material death on this in this world, but he's actually given this very special seat as closing every form of time, because time is a fire. It's consuming everything. It's eating us. It's Kal Agni. It's a form of Mahakal itself. So Yamadev, this is a big Devata. It's a Lokapala. He's a Lokapala. We just did the mantra to him as the guardian of the south. And we did a second mantra that invokes Yama. Okay, so that next one is Agni Puran, and it's the invocation to Yama. So he is a very big Devata, and he's been somehow a little bit reduced in some modern stories, but more or less he was referred to as Kal. You very rarely hear about his Shakti, Dhumorna. Dhumorna is doom. We have this smoky colored, or so this is his Shakti. And there's lots of places in the Purans that describe his loka. Some call it Yamapuri, Yamlok, and he's got all kinds of names. And there's 28 levels of what people are referring to, these so-called punishment levels. People get into all this speaking about hell and all of this, which I will not get into here. But interestingly enough, there's 28, just as there are 28 nakshatras. So it's a very fascinating thing. They go into detail about all of those things. And I believe the influence of monotheistic and Abrahamic religion has touched some of this, is my personal feeling, because some of it seems as if it's explaining it. If you go back in more ancient view of a job of a Yamdut or a job of Yama, it's to actually clean and purify all the debris off from that life. So say to burn it off, perhaps, at whatever that life was, so that the consciousness is free of all of that, you could say muck, all of that stickiness. And it was to burn it off, whether it was good or bad. Okay, so that's very clear in some of the older yogic understandings. Both good and bad are binding to the consciousness. So it can't be free under the restraint of both sets of good and bad. But then it slowly devolved to almost this punishing thing. Oh, this person who doesn't pay, this person goes to this hell. And it's strange how it's devolved. So I won't comment on that. But there's lots of descriptions on Yamapuri and all of this that you can read. And Chitra Gupta is a big part of this. Now, Yamraj himself, you may know, he took the birth as Vidur in the Mahabharata, who in Vidur was a man of extraordinary intelligence. So if we want to understand Yama, let's kind of wipe what we think we know. Because if you look at Vidur, he was the actual incarnation of Yama. Now, does Bharani nakshatra manifest as horror screenplay writers, horror actors, people who have a connection to death? Perhaps yes, and I'm going to explain that. So yes, all of those things are very true. I have many cases of that to present to you. However, if we want to know who Yamraj is, let's refer to the nature of Vidur, because he was said to be the actual incarnation. Now it's interesting because Vidur was always trying to direct Dhritarashtra in the right way, which was it was impossible. It wasn't going to happen, but he still gave it his all, and he was highly intelligent. He was one of the most intelligent Mahamantris, advisors that ever lived. So this is a good life to study if you want to really understand Yamraj. And I have a little bit about how he got cursed to take the human form. You know, there's also in other stories, like when Shiva destroys the Tripura, the cities, Yama is said to become the tip of his arrow. Okay, so there's a lot of little subtleties like this, and I just have a few points listed for you guys to do your own research and investigation into Yama, and you'll get more of a sense of what he actually is, who he actually is. Okay, so in Tibetan culture, we have the Bardo Thardal. It is a book of the dead, and it's to guide you away from delusions at the end of life. It's to keep you sober from drinking your own delusions at the end of life, because there's nothing more powerful than human emotion as far as veiling clarity. Now, that does not make human emotion some evil thing. You're supposed to be dry of emotion like a desert. No, as a matter of fact, be wet with a certain kind of emotion, be drunk with a certain kind of feeling, like bhakti encourages, right? This is a different thing. But when we're so stuck, okay, to certain perceptions that cause grief, that inevitably cause grief, this is what this book is addressing. Not that it's evil or dirty to be a human being, nothing. Let's leave all that, guys. But it's a book that's very fascinating. This is the Tibetan version of Yama here with his Shakti, quite fierce looking. And he's said to appear in all different forms. Okay, so this is an interesting thing for those of you born under Bharani nakshatra, or that have that inclination to know more about Yamraj, Yamalok, what it is in its subtle essence, because there's no way to put this into words. It's almost something you have to see, you have to experience this. So the way to start doing that is immersing yourself in the essence of something. We're so used to learning through Bud, which is what I'm doing right now. Presentation, words, information. Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is experience. You have to know it for yourself. You have to become it, actually. So the forms of knowledge we gain through Guru and Shukra, we barely even exercise those two in this society. Guru is dhyanam, meditation, dhyana, real meditation though. This is not just, oh, I'm going to sit and close my eyes. And Shukra is union, the yoga karaka. So when you become something, this is the jnana shakti through Shukra. So you can read and saturate yourself in the energies, but then you have to go into meditation. You have to go into becoming. You have to make it your life path. Okay, so some of these things, just saturating yourself in the energy is better than getting all these words. Now, Varahi Shakti is the Shakti associated with Yamdev. I just wanted to honor her here. For those of you who feel more connected to Shakti in general, and it's easier for your heart to connect, just know that she is the Shakti that is commonly associated with Yama. Same thing, Yamlok, all the themes are the same. In Devi Mahatmyam, she very much takes this role. So just for your information, she would be the Shakti. I'm just going to move through this, guys. Now, it's commonly said that Rahu is born under Bharani nakshatra. It's one of the nakshatras that he's given, and there's two others, but I'm just only going to focus on Bharani now. And if you read his names, you'll immediately see that he's called Mesha Rashi. He's associated with Mesha. He's associated with Simha. So you automatically have two hints there that two of the birth stars, one of them is in Mesha and one of them is in Simha. So now, interesting with Rahu's story, I want to take a different spin on this, guys. So please clear your minds just for a minute. And don't assume anything about Rahu for just for a minute. So Rahu really, as I've said in other videos, really doesn't do anything wrong here in the story of Vishnu and the Devas. And it was actually the Devas and Vishnu that were deceiving everyone. Okay, so we have to remember to look at all details and not just be so quick to say this is good and this is bad. It destroys intelligence. We really want to sink deeper in, perhaps even into the intelligence of the heart. The heart's actually very still. I'm not talking about your emotions. I'm talking about a place. There's a place you perceive here. Okay, it's the best I'm sure some of you know that. So sink a little deeper than just all this thought and just perceive the story for a minute. So Rahu is the guy he's not tempted by Mohini, like I've said before. He's sober. Actually, he's not tempted by Vishnu is Mohini. That's a really big deal, first of all, because even Lord Shiva was intoxicated by Mohini. So Rahu was very clean of that intoxication, interestingly. He was so focused on justice, key word here, justice, that was not attracted. He was so upset over the deceit because Vishnu was giving the Rakshasas the alcohol and deceiving them. He couldn't get his mind off of the justice. This is a big word with Rahu. Justice, all these social justice warriors, Martin Luther King, all these guys that are actually genuine social justice movement leaders, they always have a powerful Rahu. Okay, remember Yama has a theme of justice going on. So immediately we can point out that. Now, not only that, the intelligence it would require to see through Vishnu's disguise. I want you to contemplate that no one else could. He was so clever that he was able to see that this was Vishnu. First of all, he was free from the desire. So this focus on justice allowed him to stay sober. Is this okay? So then he takes a position that he's not ready for, meaning that he's a little childlike. He takes this position in front of Vishnu. I mean, the audacity of this, that as if Vishnu's not going to recognize him, that he can disguise himself from Vishnu. And of course, the sun and moon point him out because they have their rightful place. This is a deep story, guys. At some point, we can go into it. This portion is very deep, but let's just stick to the parts that's relative here. So if Rahu was that, you got to think about the kind of intelligence that's there. Okay, so just hold that thought. Think about how intelligent Rahu must be. Out of all the grahas, how intelligent he must be. Okay, so then we go to this Mr. Ketu, who happens at the story, right? The body gets separated from the head. Now, moksha karka, we always hear this, but Ketu isn't always spiritual in a chart. Those of us who've done many charts know that. Where is this moksha karka coming from? Where's it called moksha karka? What is he liberated from, guys? Just look at the picture. What is he free of? Just look at the picture. One of you answer me. Just like a child would look at it, what is he free of?
Head.
His
Head.
head. See, moksha karka means get the head off. Get this thing off. The thing that thinks it's so intelligent, the thing that thinks it's more clever than Vishnu, the thing that thinks it knows justice better than Vishnu. Okay, the thing that thinks it is so clever, it can figure out all secrets, has to go. That actually even includes justice. Justice is the biggest illusion. I won't say more, but moksha karka means he's free of the indriyas that think they know. Where are all the indriyas? Where are these indriyas concentrated? The head. They're concentrated in the head. We have the feeling, sense of feeling, right? Sparsha, right? With the sparsha in the skin. But every other sense is literally in the face. Taste, scent, sight, shabda, hearing. So get the head off, and then this is moksha. This is moksha karka. Throw the thing as far as you can from you. So that intelligence is really valued in this world. So therefore, Rahu is called Bhoga Karka, sort of a Bhoga Karka. Okay. But the key here is he gets beheaded. He actually gets separated from his body. He has a kind of death. He has a kind of death, and he becomes immortal. He interestingly becomes immortal. Now, this whole thing with Bharani, Rahu being born in Bharani is very fascinating. I'll tell you guys, there are numerous stories of Bharani people having to care for parents that have no sensory perception. This is so common. And it's usually the parent may be a Shravana, which is interesting because it's Vishnu. It's been a fascinating theme I've perceived. I've seen it over multiple charts, and there's even charts of celebrities. You guys know that I won't do charts of living people typically. So the charts I have that we're going to run through really quick are not living people. I will not speculate about their lives. So I've done his chart before. I didn't post it here. You guys all know I like him a lot. I'll just, for people who haven't seen it, he has a Bharani Lagna with Ketu on the Lagna. Now, this man had deaf parents, and he took care of those deaf parents. And that's what made him so good at theater. And he became the infamous character of Yama, what everyone fears, death, all the hidden things. This guy had such a character that he was known to save young girls from producers raping them. This is Yama. He was known to actually take them into his dressing room and hide them. Okay, so even though he's got this frightening, I think he's beautiful, to be honest. He's very beautiful, but most people wouldn't see a face like this and think it's beautiful. But he also saved his son's life by bringing him back to life. His son was born dead with the umbilical cord around his throat, Yama's Pasha, right? This Pash. So he put him on freezing water and he started breathing. The doctors had declared him dead, everything. And his son went on to also do these kind of movies. Very interesting. So this is a Bharani Lagna, another with a cluster in Bharani, infamous character like Yama, again. Very long-lived career in playing those kind of roles, Vincent Price. Another one, Dario Argento, and a lot of these people ended up getting their success in the Dasha period, transit periods when Bharani was triggered. The writer of Ghost and Jacob's Ladder in this country also, like there's so many people who deal with this so-called horror. You've got to think of this stuff, even though it scares a lot of people, it's focused on freedom from the body. So we have to remember there's this whole theme going on of the head coming off and entering the realm of the Sukshma Indriyas. So there's some theme going on with the Sukshma Indriyas. A lot of these movies even have psychics and this and that. So it's all about this entering realms that are frightening to the average person, but it's letting go of this material and seeing that which is beyond that. Okay, so please don't be afraid. Jim Morrison, another Bharani moon, break on through to the other side. It's one of his most famous songs. Okay, so these people are very commonly doing these kinds of themes in their life. Now, the last thing I wanted to close with is how many yogis. Now we hear Patanjali Sutras, Yamas and Niyamas. Yama means restraint or rules, you could say guidelines. Interestingly, in Ashtanga Yoga, with these rules and the 5 Yamas and Niyamas, they're all linked with the Gyan Indriyas, the Karma Indriyas. They're linked with the Panch Mahabhutas. So there's always this theme of 5, 5, 5, 5, okay? So very fascinating theme going on with these senses and the restraint of the senses. So if you line up the Yamas with the Panch Mahabhutas, the Gyan Indriyas, the Karma Indriyas, if you start really looking at this, each one of the Yamas and Niyamas deal with one of these guys. And they're getting you back to your Sukshma Indriyas if you follow the rules. The rules are actually to give you freedom. So this is the very interesting thing about Yamdev, is that by this so-called restraint and rules and laws, they're to break you out of a certain kind of prison and release you into a bigger ocean of freedom, to get you to those Sukshma Indriyas. So this story of Rahu Ketu becomes very important to understand. Why is he mokshakarka once he's free of that head? So the Yamas and the Niyamas are actually masterfully designed to tackle this whole thing of the Indriyas and the Panch Mahabhutas and the whole way that these things become subtle. So we have a natural, yogi, Shivananda. He's a Bharani Janma Nakshatra. He lived his whole life doing yoga. And the science of pranayam is very Yama. We see the word Yama again, very much the use and the restraint of the breath. So all of this is a Yama thing. You're going to see a lot of these guys. This is his Kundali in case you wanted to study it. You're going to see a lot of these guys have certain themes. Okay. And by the way, you would think this is some horrible conjunction. See, so I always tell you guys to stay away from, as a matter of fact, stay very far away from the kind of astrology that puts you in a box. We want freedom here. We want to see things as they are. People will try to say that there's a parivartana, so it helps this. There's many cases where there's no parivartana, okay? Nothing, right? So this is a Gyan yoga. Whenever you get Mangal and Malefic, you get malefics conjunct in Karak Rashi, it's actually called a Gyan yoga. And he was, very much inclined towards that in Raj yoga. Okay, another one. Ramana Maharishi, very prominent Mangal in Bharani Nakshatra. And when that Mangal was activated is exactly when he had his death experience. So I'm sure one of the guys will talk about out of body experiences, near death experiences, all of the altered states of consciousness. All of these things opening us up to the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, have to do with Bharani. So Ramana Maharishi had literally, even someone this elevated, the timing on this earth, when you take a physical body, it still shows. It still shows. The cosmic law even still shows in many cases like this. So I have the transits in blue here. So the transits are in blue, and this is the timing of when he had his experience. So Mangal had entered Bharani with his natal Mangal. And so it's a very interesting study, guys. He got his first spiritual awakening during his Shani Shukra, according to the system that I use, guys. I use a different year length. But Shukra wakes up Bharani. So whenever you run a Shukra Dasha, you have a planet inside Bharani Nakshatra. If you're in Antardasha or Mahadasha, that planet will be, like awake. So it'll give its karma palam at that time. So he had his first awakening at that time. It's just a fascinating study for all of you. Okay, guys, that's what I've got. I'm going to hand over to the next person. I don't know how to stop.
So, yeah, I think
how do I
click on stop sharing. If you move on the bar, you can click on stop sharing actually. Okay, great. Yeah, that was great, Yuji. I think that was amazing information. Thank you for sharing all that. I think Dr. Pai, do you have any comment or something upon Yuji's thing?
No, I think it was a very, the detailing, EFG, I really liked about the detailing that you brought about Yama. And when I said Yama, there was somebody who just popped up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yama
okay. So yeah, one of the themes that I was very intrigued by when we talk about Yama, I'll talk more when it comes to my turn comes around. But one thing that I want to say is Yama, in my view, is our Vedic Adam and Eve, which is Yama and Yami. They were the first people to probably learn about death and rebirth. So you can see that the Abrahamic religions talked about Adam and Eve, and you can see Yama and Yami also probably shows the same principles because there was no death before Yama. So he was the first person to learn the path.
I can't hear anything. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same issue also with Joni when I did our interview with her just now, a couple of days ago. And so I can't even hear anything. There's something, I guess there's something wrong with my...
What did we just talk about, guys, about not hearing?
Mercury retrograde.
No, not that.
Dealing with some major... Yeah, I can't hear nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is fine. My speaker is fine. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, but you guys talk. I'll try to figure out if I can start hearing you. Once I start hearing you, then I'll know.
Yeah.
So,
why don't you message him and say that he can probably join from his cell phone, maybe from his cell phone, and while he figure this out, maybe that can help.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Pai.
Yeah, so and there is something magical about Bharani that I also wanted to talk, but let me talk once Aditya finishes. But I want to say something about many of the stories where Yama is involved. See, most of the stories have common themes.
Oh, Dr. Pai, say it. Just say it. If it comes to you right now, just say it.
Okay. See, there are a couple of stories that I'm very intrigued by the stories of Yama. And one of the stories, I'll give you 2 or 3 stories, which you will see the same pattern. Okay. Now, one of the story which Eve also touched upon is between Yama and the protagonist child, which is Nachiketa, which is from Katha Upanishad or Kathopanishad, where this boy goes to Yamaloka, and Yama is not there. He's busy and he's not there in Yamaloka. So this boy waits without food and water for 3 days. And Yama, when he comes back, he says, "Oh, you young boy, you have really got a lot of willpower because you've been here for 3 days and you have been waiting here. So you can ask for 3 boons." So the word is what I want to say, 3 boons is something which is very important. I will explain that. The first thing he asks for is to grant peace of mind to him and his father, which means, when he say father, it means to everybody in his lineage, that is all his ancestors, when he says father. So basically what he gives him is Atma Jnana, self-knowledge of the Atma, to give him peace of mind. That's point number 1. Second, he says, I want to know the secret of the sacred fire ritual. So then Yama gives him the knowledge about fire, which is the next nakshatra which is coming up is Agni. Okay. Agni's nakshatra, which is Kritika nakshatra. And the third that he asks boon is about knowing what happens after life, which is of death. So he asks these 3 boons. So I want to, Aditya, I know we'll cover this, but I want to say that the 3 boons are connected to the 3 stars which Bharani nakshatra is associated with. Okay. And I'll repeat this again. You will see this. Okay. Then the other story which comes to is Yama and Savitri. Now, the story goes that there is a very interesting, see, everything is in codified language, okay? So Savitri's father didn't have any children. So he does a yagna as per the sages. During that time, they advised him for 18 years. That is called a Savitri yagna. And Savitri, which is the consort of Brahma, which is Saraswati, she emerges and she says, you will be gifted with a child. So 18 years, remember, it is the Vimshutri Dasha of Rahu. 18-year yagna. Then, she marries an exiled prince called Satyavan. Remember the word exile. That means you are an outcast. You have been exiled. So remember all the stories of where exile happens, which is very common in all the itihasas, which is, you talk about Ramayana, there is exile. Mahabharata, there is exile. So this king has been exiled and she falls in love. But Narada tells that he is short-lived. And probably is short-lived when he was a young prince. Okay, I think he's speaking, but okay. Right, so the thing is, Yama comes and takes Satyavan and she follows him. Again, she asks, he says, except for Satyavan, you can ask for 3 boons. Now she really outwits him. What was the first boon? He says, give my father-in-law the kingdom back that he has lost. The second wish, he says, let my father have 100 sons. And the third wish, which really stumped Yama, was, he says, let Satyavan have 100 children. Now this is impossible, right? Yama had said, don't ask for Satyavan's life, ask me any other wish. So if Satyavan has to have 100 children, he has to come alive. So do you see how she outwitted Yama? Again, 3 boons, okay? Okay, so then the next thing, what I saw is the story of Yama and Markandeya, Rishi Markandeya. So Rishi Markandeya was destined to die at the age of 16 years. Now this word 16, again, you have to take into consideration. I'll talk about one more story of Yama, which again brings this. So Markandeya Rishi, an exemplary son who was only destined to live for 16 years. And then we know the story of how he's saved by Mahakal. So number 16 is also very important. The next story is Yama and, there is the story which is which we also celebrate, is called as Yama Deepam, which is also called as Yama Dvitiya. This happens to coincide with a day which is called as Dhanteras. Dhanteras is when we bring a lot of gold home. Okay. So
Dhanteras, Bhai Dooj.
Bhai Dooj.
Yeah, Bhai
Dooj. One day, yeah. Dhanteras is the next day. So on the night before the Dhanteras, which means next day is Dhanteras, Tritiya. So Bhai Dooj is one day before. So
no. Yama Dutiya is 2 days after the new moon.
Okay. Yeah, Bhai Dooj, right? That is what it is.
Yeah, Bhai Dutiya. Dhanteras comes, then Narak Chaturdashi comes, then the Amavasya comes, then Pratipada comes, and then Dvitiya. So the last 5 days, the last day of the Diwali.
Okay. So Yama Dvitiya is the second day, right? Yeah. So Yama Deepam is falling with Yama Dvitiya, I guess.
Yeah.
No, guys. Let me share my screen.
There is some sound effect.
I'm sorry. It's a lot of lightning and thunder here.
No, I think that's Kapil's thing actually. Yeah.
Okay, so here I have it. I even have the mantra for it. So it's a Trayodashi, is the Deepam. But there is also, you guys are right about the, the second cycle, and there's also a Chaturdashi, or sorry, a Chaturthi. Okay.
Chaturthi.
There are two then. Okay.
There are three.
Three.
Okay.
So there's the Narak Chaturdashi, and yeah, I have them listed here.
Dhan Trayodashi. She's put Trayodashi, Naraka Chaturdashi, and Yama Dvitiya.
This is it, because this is actually the mantra for it. Yeah.
Correct. So this is, I think, is Yama Dvitiya, which is also called as Yama Deepam, if I'm not wrong. I could be, again, can stand corrected. But the story is very interesting. The story is about a 16-year-old son of a king called Hima. And he was doomed to die with a snake bite. Again, snake is what? Rahu. On the 4th day of his married life. So what his wife does is, she puts all her ornaments made of gold at the doorstep, and she lights a lamp, and the glare, because Yama comes as a serpent, as is destined to be killed by a serpent, and because of the light, he's not able to, and he's dazzled by those ornaments. Okay, he climbs on the ornaments and he sits there and he listens to the song which the wife is, singing stories for the whole night. And that is how in the morning he peacefully goes away. The time that he has to die doesn't happen. So something again with number 16 is coming. So you see even Markandeya Rishi, 16th year. This story also is talking about the husband due to die at the age of 16. So 16 is
connected with Jupiter.
Exactly. That is what I was trying to say. 16, if you do the Padma Chakra, you will see it's connected to the 4th house. 4th house is both the womb as well as your death, which means as Eve has rightfully, Eve G has written there, it is your life between the womb to the tomb. So your womb is also the 4th house, your tomb is also the 4th house, your final resting place. Wherever you started your life is also Bharani. You have started your life in the womb, which is your umbilical fluids. And finally, what you do is after your life is over, you burn your ashes and you put your bones and your ashes again in a river, so that you can get another life again. So it is for your journey to continue, your water to water. So you are born in water, and finally your asthya, which is your bones and your ashes, are also put in a river, in water, so that you can get another rebirth, reincarnation. So I feel there is some things which is astrologically also connected. Look, even the 4th Tithi is called Rikta Tithi, and it is also connected to Yama, Rikta Tithi. Ganesha, of course, Lord Ganapati, and Lord Ganapati also had his head severed. Rahu also had his head severed. The whole story of what Eve was saying, this is also called as the Janma Nakshatra of Rahu. Now, in ancient Tamilian astrological scriptures, this is not in the modern sciences, Rahu is said to be an incarnation of Shakti, and especially the Shakti of Kali and Bhadrakali. So Bharani nakshatra is nothing but it is the generation of that primordial energy that is created. And this is also a place where Saturn goes into its debilitation. Saturn debilitation in the esoteric world of South India, it also suggests that it is nothing but Sati, where she jumps into the yagna of her own father and she self-emulates herself. And after that, 51 Shakti Pitas are formed. So Bharani is connected to all the 51 Shakti Pitas. And out of those 51 Shakti Pitas, one of the most prominent Shakti Pita is Kamarupa, which is called as Kamakya Devi Temple at Guwahati in Assam, which is the primordial representation of mother, which shows her fertility, her creative powers, and also it is the womb, it's the menstruation that you see, Kamakya Devi. So I think Kamakya Devi is the primordial goddess which is connected to Bharani Nakshatra and Kali as well as Bhadrakali, because Bharani is nothing but what is called as Ichha Shakti. Ichha Shakti means what is that you can manifest through your desires and your most creative powers that you can put into action is Bharani. See, whenever I started studying about these nakshatras, I usually, was fascinated whenever I talk to people. When I went to Tamil Nadu, there is a saying in Tamil Nadu as well as in Karnataka. That means in Tamil they say, I'm not, my spoken Tamil is very bad, but I will try, Bharaniyil Pirandaval Dharani Aluval. This is Tamil. Kannada, they say Bharani Avanu Dharani Aluvanu. What does it mean? That means somebody who is born, both these languages, somebody who is born in Bharani Nakshatra will rule the world or will have control over the earth. This is Prithvi Tattva. Because Kamakya Devi is a representation of the fertility of Mother Earth. And it is Mother Earth which is the reason, the primary reason that people do not know is the reason for the birth of Sri Krishna. And this nakshatra is also called as Krishna in the ancient times. Besides, it was called as Apabharani. I've given you the reason. It was also called as Krishna. Krishna means somebody who has, even Kali is called as Krishna because she's got a slightly, hue, which is a beautiful darkish hue that she has, and that's why even Krishna has an influence of Shani on it. So why? Do you know why Krishna was born? Because if you know the story, there is a story. Krishna, and what is the reason for the Mahabharata war? Which is again Bharani, which is about death, right? Because there was a genocide that happened. That was, half of the population of this world was reduced suddenly because of this war, which was called as the Mahabharata. And remember, the Mahabharata war was also fought for 18 days. Let's not forget about that. The number 18 days it was fought, which is Rahu's number again, which is complete purification, cleansing. And see, even Bharani Nakshatra is associated with all the fertility symbols, not only what we are seeing here, but even in the pagan rituals as well. See, the sun enters into Bharani on 20th or 27th or 28th of April, and it is there till 11th of May. We are doing this video almost when sun is going to move out of Bharani and go into Kritika. Now, during this time, there are two important things that are happening. In the pagan rituals, see, when I was studying in Edinburgh, they used to celebrate the Celtics or the Celtics. They celebrate a fire festival for fertility because it is also about the summer coming up after the spring, and they dance and they have a Carlton Hill. They go there and people dance, and they also light a fire, like a bonfire, and they dance, and there is drumming that happens. Okay, it's a pagan ritual. We also see in India, we celebrate what is called as Labor Day, 1st of May, when sun is in Bharani nakshatra. People actually take it as a holiday, but actually what is Labor Day is when you have to go for a kind of a spring cleaning. You have to remove things that you do not need. And whatever has come to an end, you need to dispose of from the house. That is the whole purpose of having this day off, which is called as Labor Day. Why Labor Day? Labor is connected to Shani. Shani is labor. Shani gets debilitated here. So when sun is passing here, Labor Day is celebrated in India on the 1st of May, is said to be Labor Day. Okay. Now, Krishna, I will say this, and then I will, end this because I think it's been quite lengthy. Okay. Krishna was, he's become the emperor. Okay. I told you. Bharani Avanu, Dharani Alvanu. He has no Bharani nakshatra. He is a Rohini nakshatra. But remember, it is a Mitra nakshatra, Bharani, for Krishna. So one day, Balram and Krishna are in an important meeting. So their Dwarapal, which means somebody who is a guard of the palace, says there is a very old lady who has come, and she says she has a great problem, and if you can help her, that will be great. Now they say there are so many other people, go and send her somebody. He said, okay, I'll go and I'll get somebody else to go and attend to her because we are very busy. Balram and Krishna are in a busy debate because they're ruling, the kingdom. So after 5 minutes, the soldier again comes, the foot soldier, and he says, Dwarapal comes and says, oh, we have tried to help her, but this is a very unique problem. We cannot help. So Balram is like, what is a unique problem that nobody in our kingdom can help? We are all the Yadava clan and we are warriors. So we should be able to help her. He says, unfortunately, I think this problem is for real because I tried to help her. I couldn't help her. I've asked many people to come. And so Balram ragingly says, okay, I will go. Krishna, you sit here. Let me go. Balram goes. And after some time, Balram also comes in. He says, I don't know what is this problem of this lady. I'm not able to solve this. Especially Balram means somebody who's. So Krishna says, okay, she wants to see you. So she goes out. It's an old lady who has a basket over her head. She's saying, I'm unable to put this basket down. Can you please help me put this basket down? Nobody can even pick that basket or shake that basket. Krishna also tries, and immediately he realizes who she is. He falls and he says, I recognize who you are. So she's none other than Bhudevi. She's carrying this thing. She's saying, I'm having too much of weight over my head. Please reduce this weight. Okay. That means she's also Bharani. Bharani means she's bearing the weight. Just like how a womb, bears the child for 9 months. How a mother bears the child. The same thing, earth is also bearing all of our weight. We have we want to repay our mother, isn't it? That is why we do what is called as Pindadan. Pindadan is done by putting 3 rice cakes with sesame seeds, black sesame seeds on the rice cakes. Because what is Pinda? See, we are all born from mammals. We are all mammalian. That's why what is called as Pinda. Pinda is birth through the womb is called Pinda. We are all Pindajas. Ja means born from. If you are born from an egg, you are Andaja. If you are born from a seed, which is like trees, you are called Udbija. If you are born from, like an amoeba or a microorganism, you are called as Shwetaja, which is born from the sweat. So we are actually paying homage to 3 wombs that our consecutive generations have come through. The womb, we are respecting the womb here with the 3 rice cakes, and the black sesame seeds are karmas which are attached to us. Okay, so this means Bharani nakshatra is what we are actually worshipping with these 3 rice cakes, which is the 3 generations, the 3 stars that we have connecting with, the 3 boons that we are seeing in most of the stories. Okay, so I just wanted to say that, this is a very fascinating nakshatra. I can see that there is also one more final point, because, because I've spoken for so long. This nakshatra is also not only considered to be with the, considered to be with the Hindus, but it's also, I feel there is a connection with most of the Abrahamic religions also, which believes in baptism. See, what is baptism? Baptism is a ritual of purification, cleansing. It's like saying it's rebirth or also initiation, isn't it? Where, it is said in certain denominations of religions, they pour water on the head of the child 3 times, or it could be, we sprinkle the water, aspersions 3 times, or you also take the complete body is dipped in water and is brought out. It is like, that's where the whole there is this idiom, right? Born again Christian. This whole thing is about, where a baby is passed on from a womb-like structure, which is like in the form of a fish. It's like your rebirth is happening here again, and water has been used. Even Sikhism uses the same thing of baptizing, and it is called as Amrit Sanskar, which means what they do, sugary water is given to the child and the rest of the water is drank by the mother before, when the baptism is happening. So water is an element which is used for baptizing. And Apabharani is also about the principle of baptizing, and it is also a kind of see, many people also get baptized in their adulthood, not in the childhood. Do you see what I mean? So there is kind of a rebirth that is happening. It's like an initiation that is happening. Okay. So I think these were some, and one more thing I wanted to say is Bharani, I feel, is not only about the chapter closing, it's also about new beginnings. It's about a new chapter starting in your life again. Okay, it is not the end. It is also, we say the end or we say death, but it's also about new beginnings. And that's why I feel there is some connection, because see, Yama comes sitting on a water buffalo. Okay, he has 2 messengers apparently, 2 birds. One is a pigeon, the other is the crow. And when you enter the Yamaloka, because he's called as like EFG has already said, he is the regent of the southern direction. That's where the Yamaloka is. Okay, he's also called as a Lokapala. He's also called as a Dikpala. And in Buddhism, he's called as Dharmapala as well, which means he's holder of Dharma. Okay. And also, he is in Mahabharata, he is the father of Yudhishthira, Dharmaraja. Okay, Dharmaraja, and some also believe in the traditions of Mahabharata, Duryodhana's birth star is also Bharani Nakshatra.
Dr. Pai Team.
Yeah.
It's interesting because what I was talking about, how justice is the final illusion. You remember what happens with Yudhishthira at the end? I renounce Dharma. His brothers and Draupadi have gone to hell. He sees Duryodhan, Dushashan, these guys, and they're in Indralok. And
Yes.
I mean, so many things. There's more than that. That's the basic, but this is key here. This is this whole thing that we get caught up on with right, wrong, justice, that perpetuates life, actually. Okay, it's a very subtle point, it's very deep. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and maybe you can expound on this, you had mentioned about Shani's Nietzsche. Now, two things with that. Maybe one of you will have an insight. Shani is natural Ayush card. He gives long life to things, and he also slows things down and restrains them. So it's just a fascinating thing to contemplate there, because he's Ucha and Swati, where we have Vayu. So he's going to measure that Vayu. He's not going to let you let out too much of that. Those winds, he's going to give some, like Shani's names, they're all about measurement, restraint, restriction, moving slow, right? So there's something there happening. There's also a saying that when Shani is Nietzsche, he becomes Mahakali in the chart. So I just, when you were saying this thing about Bhadrakali, and I was just thinking, because I've heard this. Anyway, if you have any point on that, I just wanted to throw that out there for.
No, I think that's very fascinating that you also bring this up, and I was also seeing in your slides, Evji. See, there is also a story between Yama and Rama. Now, when Yama was waiting to come to take, Ram with him, Yama couldn't take Ram as long as Hanuman was there with him. Hanuman is Prana Shakti. He represents Prana. If he's not there, there is no Prana, because he's a Vayu
Putra, Pavana Putra, yeah.
Pavana Sutha, Hanuman is Prana Devata. So, you know what Ram did? He took his ring and he put it inside a crack. He created a crack in the earth, and he put the ring, and he said, "Oh, Hanuman, my ring fell through. Can you please go and get it?" Hanuman jumps into the hole and he keeps going. The ring is falling and he goes in. By that time, Ram, is accompanied to the Sarayu river with Yama, and he is left. So Hanuman is very, very grieved when he comes back, and he says this was his technique of saying, otherwise, as long as Hanuman is there with Ram, Yamadutas or Yama even cannot approach him. So Ram knew that. So there is, again, see, a lot of stories you see with, Rama, and, all of these stories with Yama is very, very intriguing when you go into the depth of it. And one more last thing I want to say, and I will close. See, the surprising thing that I see in many of the stories where we talk about, like for example, Draupadi. Okay, see, Yamaraja and Yudhishthira have a dialogue. He says, "What is it that you see the similarity between Draupadi, and can you give me an insight about who she probably could be?" When Yamaraj gives him the story of Savitri and Satyavan. See, Savitri also has emerged from the fire, which means Savitri Devi has come, which is Saraswati has come, and she granted a child, which was named also Savitri. Draupadi is also, his birth is through fire. Through the Yagna, she was born, Draupadi. Okay. So they had, a son was born, and Draupadi was also born. Now, in the other theme, you see, what is Sita Mata? Sita Mata is, she's the daughter of Mother Earth. Again, there is a connection with Bharani nakshatra. Okay, very strong connection. I'll leave it to you. And she's also got a connection with fire, Sita. That's why she's also called as Janaki, because she comes from Janakaraya. She's also called as Vaidehi. That's her name. Okay, because the clan was called as Vaidehas. Okay, but whenever Ram wanted to go after the golden deer, you know what? She becomes Maya Sita, which means she goes into the fire. That is her camouflage. She's born from Mother Earth. When Janakaraya was plowing the field, that is when she found her. but she goes and she hides in the fire. So fire and earth have very strong connections that I feel with this nakshatra. It's not only the water element, but also the fire. And Sita also has Bharani. She has borne a lot in her life. Today, nobody would call their daughter as Sita, isn't it? Nobody will name their daughter as Sita, even though she's a goddess. She's goddess Lakshmi herself. Anyway, I think I have to end now because I can keep on going like this. But I want to say, if you really want to understand the beauty of this nakshatra, then listen to Yamashtakam. Yamashtakam is Savitri's thing to Yama, that she's trying to, win over him through an intelligent, dialogue. Okay. And Yamunashtakam, because that also came from my mouth. Yamunashtakam, because Yama has said, anybody who goes and worships on the bank of Yamuna, those souls, I'll definitely give them mukti. And they will be Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means when you are alive, you are getting. So ancestors are, whoever have not gotten things, Yamuna, Devi can give you, because that is the blessing that is received. Okay. So I think my session is done. Unfortunately, I have superseded, Aditya. He wanted me to carry on, so I just went on with the train of thoughts that I had. But Aditya, over to you. Anybody has anything to share?
Yeah, Dr. Pai, I just want to say it was interesting you mentioned the 18-year length of Rahu as being the 18 days, and so that was very interesting. How the potentially Jupiter, the Mahadasha, in terms of 16 and all that. So that is a very interesting thing to think about further, I think. So I thought that idea was very fascinating.
One more thing I want to give you. There is Rahu who is watching this entire Mahabharata. Do you know? It was not actually Rahu, but it was a one-headed. Only the head was watching the entire Mahabharata.
Babruwan.
Babraliga. Yeah.
Babrik.
Yeah.
So he could only sit on a mountain because he was so powerful. If he took any side, the other side would be defeated. Babrik was so powerful. You should understand the story of Babrika. So what did he goes to, he desires to watch the entire Mahabharata, the 18-day war which was fought. He wants to see. You know what Krishna does? He cuts his head off and says, go and sit on the mountain and watch this. So it is like his head was watching the entire thing, and he could tell what was happening. Finally, they go to Babrik and they say, what do you think about this war? Who won this war? The Pandavas go to Babrik. Krishna says, okay, I am not anybody who can say anything. You go and ask Babrik, because for 18 days he's been sitting on the mountain, just his head, and he's watching this entire war. So he can be the best judge. So when the Pandavas go to Babrik and ask, what Babrik says? I could not see any warrior in this entire war. It was only Krishna against the Kauravas. The entire war was fought by Krishna. And everybody think it was their actions. If not for Krishna on the Pandava side, that war was. So Babrik was seeing that in every killing that was happening on the battlefield, Krishna's hand was there, invisible hand. And everybody was believing it was them. Arjuna was so ghamandi that he was egoistic that I am the greatest archer. So all the Pandavas thought they had won, but Babrik knows what is the truth.
Dr. Pai, that's just interesting with the whole the spotting of Mohini and the spotting of Krishna's game. It's something about seeing into the game.
So I feel there is something with the, watching something getting manipulated in front of you. And that is why I feel Bharani nakshatras, their blood boils when they see injustice happening, because other people will not see the injustice, but a Bharani native will see the injustice, like how Babrik was seeing. He knows this was completely on one-sided match because Krishna was there on one side. Krishna has given his complete Narayani Sena to Duryodhana. But he won, one-sided. One man who could win the entire match for you, imagine. So this is why I say this is all Maya. So Babri could see through the Maya. Bharani nakshatras will also be able to see, and that is why they will stand up for justice. They will stand up for righteousness. They will stand up for Dharma because he's Dharma Raj. Because he saw through Chaya's ploy. That is why he was given the title by his father, Vivaswanaditya Marthanda, that you should be called as Dharma Raja, because you saw through the ploy. You could see through. Bharani Nakshatra see through. That's why they will stand up for injustice. They would be kind of a spiritual warrior. That's why you see them being very prominent in places like law, law and order and enforcement of laws. Just because this is Yama. All right, I think I have to, stop this discussion from my end. Otherwise, I'll hijack this thing like a Babrik who's all observing everything. So Aditya, over to you. You are the next Surya. You are the Marthanda.
Many things, because there are so many points. I was just keeping quiet today and I was just listening. Somehow this Bharani Nakshatra made me to keep quiet. I don't know why. It was something. Anyway, so first thing about Yamadipam, you are right. It is Tantra Treyodashi. That's what Yamadipam is. Yamadutiya is also something. So both days this Yama. So I got confused with Yamadipam as Yamadutiya, but Yamadipam is celebrated on Treyodashi, on the 13th day. So you were right, Dr. Pai. The other point is Sita and Draupadi you mentioned, and the whole reason of Ramayana was Sita, and the whole reason for Mahabharata was also Draupadi. So coming out from fire, they were acting like something like a Kali Shakti, like the destruction of everything. And Kali, that means Mula Nakshatra. There's something interesting. Maybe I will point later in the slide. Something with Bharani and Mula. Of course, Rahu Ketu, you can say Rahu Ketu connection, Mula is, but it comes again. Anyway, then I was thinking about this chopping of head is coming often today. With Rahu heads chopped, Babri has chopped. Of course, I don't know whether I should say this, but even sacrificing animals. See, we never stab animals in the abdomen or something like that. We always chop their head. Why this chopping of head? I don't know why we should discuss this, but that is always there in the system. Head chopping.
Togiji?
Good. Even in Kali's sacrifice, a buffalo head is given as.
Well, guys, in the Purans, actually, you guys didn't even know this, huh? Okay, so Yama is given that role in the sacrifices. If there's an animal to be, he's actually given that role. So Aditya ji, that's why you're mentioning it.
Oh, okay.
He's given that role. It's actually a certain title. He's the one that carries that out.
Oh, so yeah, always chopping. See, you can kill animal in any way, but always chopping the head, Anyway, I don't like meat, so I'm okay. I can say that. Other thing which you said, when Babrik said that it was only Krishna fighting, when Krishna died, and Arjuna was not even able to win war with those simple Yadav men. And he was surprised, like Krishna died, and then he went there, and Yadavas were fighting and all, and then Arjun was fighting with them to stop. Like, why are you people fighting after the death of Krishna? And those people defeated Arjuna. So Arjuna was thinking, how this is possible? I have destroyed the whole Kaurava army. Everything was like, I am so good archer, and now I'm just getting defeated by these few men who are not even experts in fighting. And then he realized that it was not he, it was the power of Krishna that made him to win and all. So a lesson to learn. I think whatever we do, is the blessing of the Almighty, probably. And many times it comes, sometimes a problem comes, you do a problem. In my field, that's why I'm saying about problem. You do sometime, and sometimes you really think that, how is it really me, or is it, if something anytime can happen. Tomorrow I can meet with an accident, had a head injury and forget everything. No, all gone. Can you don't know? So, is it really me? One has to think. Anyway, just some thoughts. So yeah, just thought to mention those points. Anyway, should we start? Any other points?
No, go ahead, Aditya. Yeah.
Okay, so where is my slides? Is this how you share this? Share screen. Okay. Do you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Doctor of Stories, Dr. Pai already mentioned. This is a nice Yama. Looks very nice. You see Yama Danda. I think even Evji also mentioned in a mantra carries the danda, and he also the noose which he has. That's Mr. Cat came in the picture. So yeah, talking about Bharani, of course, the nakshatra in Aries is the natural first house of the Kalpurush chart. All the padas of Bharani nakshatra comes under Aries sign. So first house themes becomes important. Again, first house is what? Again, see, we were talking about head, we were talking about face, we were talking about the chopping of head, and also first house somewhere. So all these qualities same as Ashwini. And there is a connection between Ashwini, Bharani, and Kritika, as Dr. Pai said. Yeah, this because Kritika Lord is also Agni, and this Yama and Agni are very what you say, very much related, and a lot of hymns and praises in Rigveda are related. So somehow they are like coming in pairs. This is a symbol of Bharani nakshatra, which is the vulva or the yoni or the female reproductive organ. Now coming to astronomy, let's talk about astronomy. It is 3 stars, as Dr. Pai, 3 boons, 3 stars, which is 35, 39, 41 Ariatis. Now the stars of Bharani nakshatra are not that very much prominent, if you really see. If you see, I don't know how many of you have seen Aries, but very dim stars. Out of 35, 39, 41, it is a 41 Ariatis, which is the prominent star or the Yoga Tara, which comes at exactly 24 degree, 21 minutes of Aries nakshatra. Now, if you see the precision, we all know this point, the first point, the vernal equinox, the shifts basically. Right now, it is at the junction of Uttar Bhadrapada and the Purva Bhadrapada nakshatra. It is during this period, 1600 to 700 BC, the equinox point was in Bharani nakshatra. Now, this is the period when it is late and post Harappan period. In India, we all may be knowing about Indus Valley civilization. Where did the Indus Valley civilization developed? And it was, and I think the story, the everyone will know the answer. It developed along the river Sindhu. You see again the point of river is coming into the picture. The water, the river. Bharani, Bharani, the word Bharani, if you know in Hindi, it is also, that achar, what is that, pickle. You keep pickle in that is also called as Bharani, or
Yeah,
that
that's
contain.
right. Achar is kept in a Bharani actually in Malayalam. Yeah.
We call that as Bharani. So Bharani is nothing but something which holds. Now womb also holds a baby. So it's Bharani is just not think like a nakshatra name, but it's also something which can hold a bag or something which holds. It can hold a baby. It can hold a pickle. And there's one more saying in Hindi. Have you heard? Jaisi karni, vaisi bharni. Have you heard? As it means actually in English, as you sow, so shall you reap. So Bharani is also what you are going to get. The fruits maybe probably. So that's what Bharani is like. You are going to reap as you sow. That's the meaning, the reaping. So again, as you sow, so shall you reap. Means what? Somewhere the picture of law is coming. And we know Bharani is what? Lawyers and all Dr. Pai was saying, and he's Yamraj, who is the lawyer of Yamloka. Shani is what basically is a lawyer in astrology. So you see the word, Jaisi Karni, Vaisi Bharani, the Bharani. So there is something law coming into the picture, holding coming into the picture, water coming into the picture. So these all things, when you say Bharani, remember.
No, it's interesting, Aditya, as you mentioned, when Indus Valley was going on. So when the equinox was there, the energy of that Bharani was very strong. So of course, the civilization around a river had to develop, right? That kind of thing. Very interesting, actually.
Very important. Indus Valley, Nile, you know, Nile
Yeah.
River.
Yeah, Egyptian, yes. Yeah.
And there are some people, Colorado River in US. Of course, I will talk about that too. Okay, not talking about sun transit dates. Aries, it goes, the nakshatra span is from 13°20 to 26°40, and the sun transit date, Dr. Pai also mentioned, from around 27th April to 10th May. Plus minus 1 day in those dates can be possible. That is where the sun transits. Right now, the sun has just came out from Bharani, has gone into Kritika. Remember, now note, at this time when we are talking, I don't know where is Aries. Aries is going to enter Bharani. I don't know. Definitely it is in, I don't know. It is in Ashwini, but I don't know where is Jupiter's exact degree.
Jupiter is in Aries, actually. No, in Ashwini, actually. Yeah, that's correct.
So it is going to enter in Bharani, probably. That's why Jupiter is asking us to do something on Bharani, I guess. In the sky, this is what it looks. See, when I said there are many, and there are many stories with Yama associated with Agni, Yama, and there are many examples where I see this Bharani or the Bharani theme plays, and I will show in the subsequent slides, plays along with Ashwini Nakshatra too. So there is a connection between this Bharani playing with Ashwini as well as with Agni, which is Kritika. So these three are always come together. And you will see how this will come in the coming slide when I give you examples of some people charts and all. Okay, so this is your Ashwini Nakshatra, this is the Bharani Nakshatra, and this is your Kritika Nakshatra. As shown, even if anyone remembers, I have shown this slide even in the Ashwini video. So this red one is the Bharani year. Yeah, I was just thinking why I selected red. Red is also color associated with Bharani, if you remember. It somehow clicked me. Anyway. Let's talk about, because Yama is nothing but he is the family, or he is from the sun. We know sun has got two wives, Sanjana and Chaya, and Sanjana gives birth to Yama, Yami, which is also Yamuna, and Ashwin Kumaras. And Chaya is nothing, is the mother of Shani. Remember, who is the father of Sanjana? Twastar. Okay, and we know the story of how last time we explained about how Sanjana was having trouble with the heat of sun. She left away and then she made a clone of Chaya. So cloning was there. I think this is the first story we hear about cloning and all in Indian stories. Anyway, so remember, Twastar becomes the grandfather of Yama then. Maternal grandfather, somehow. Okay. So this is where I want to show the lineage of Yama, from where he comes. Even in the Shani's mantra, now it is clear that he is a brother, because when you say Om Nilanjan Samabhasam Ravi Putram Yamagrajam. So Shani, when we address Shani, it is called as Yamagrajam. That is made up of two words. It's called in Marathi, I remember street teacher taught me, my Marathi teacher. Yamagrajam. Yama, it is called what? Samas Dwandva. I think something she used to teach me 1997. Oh my God, 25 years back. So it was like, and definitely 1 mark question will be coming in the exam. So I have to remember by hearted very well. So it's a Yama plus Agraj. So it's a Yamagrajam. So it's what is Yama? Yama is Yama. Of course, Agraj means I don't know from where the word Agraj is. Agraj is really the meaning comes the elder brother, or one who comes before Yama. Can be, because Agraj, when I hear the word Agraj, I come from, in my mind comes the word Age. Age, we say in Hindi Age. So who is Age of Yama? Who is before Yama? Is Mr. Shani or Dr. Shani, probably. Let me give him PhD degree. So he is Shani. Dr. Shani is nothing but he is the one who comes before Yama. So that's why Shani is considered as the elder brother of Yama. So that's why Yama and Shani both are brothers. And both are related to somehow with lawyers and all those things. You see how the same family. I think son has, I think that's the problem. Even Indian fathers wants their son to be, SON, their son to be something. I think the same story is happening here. Probably Mr. Sun or Dr. Sun, S-U-N, wants their children to become lawyers, I guess. He made both of his children lawyers, I guess. Yama as well as Shani. Now, the word Yama, I was not knowing it means twins. Now, why twins? Because Yami or Yamuna is a twin of Yama. I think he pointed out, or someone pointed, Yama is the different words are there for Yama, like Kala, Dharmaraj. He's also called Pashi. Pashi is that noose. He carries that noose.
There's
He
many
resides
names. There's many names.
many names, many names. So I just put some few. He resides in Yamapuri. He's the king of the dead. He's the first mortal. And again, he's associated with two dogs, they say, Sharvara and Shyama. And those two dogs guide people to Yamloka after death, something. Again, when it comes to dogs, see, there is a connection. What is the animal of Mula, dog? And Ardhara also. Okay. In Garuda Purana, Syamala is considered as wife of Yama, and Yama has also got three other consorts in Mahabharata, which is called as Hemamala, Sushila, and Vijaya. So he has his own family, and there are daughters of Yama too, who got married to some king, and then they have. So there is a lineage of Yama. Yama is also a family man, not like us, not like at least like me. So he has his own family. The story, I think Dr. Pai said many stories, but Dr. Pai, you should say the story, or someone should say the story of Yama and Yami too, probably. Because that is something, Dr. Pai, because I had three stories, which Dr. Pai mentioned everything. Yama and Nachiketa, story is said by Dr. Pai. And there was also Yama and Savitri, the story is said. But people did not mention this story of Yama and Yami. Did Dr. Pai, would you like to go and say?
No, I think Aditya, you should go ahead. And I will say something about Yama and Yami once you finish with the story.
Okay, so Yama and Yami are twin brothers. And the story says Yami is a brother, she is the sister of Yama, but she wants to have relationship with Yama. That is what the story is. And she tells, no, we were twins, we were there in the womb together, why not we could live together and all. But Yama is restrains himself, saying, no, we should not do it. I think Yama knows the secrets of genetics, because he knows that if your cousins are married, you know what problems happen. Somehow Yama knows that secret, I guess. So he restrains. So that's why the star of Bharani Nakshatra is also called as a star of restraint, restraining yourself. And there are many stories actually. If you really read in Puranas, and then it was said that no, I won't marry you, and then Yami left him in anger, and then she comes after that, and then she finds that Yama is sleeping there, and she's like, okay, she gets angry before why Yama is sleeping, but then she finds that the Yama is no more. There is no, he died actually. Okay, and she is crying and she is weeping because his brother is dead now. Then other gods came into the picture and consoled Yami, and it is said that how we could like make her normal now. So it is said that they created day and night basically, and as days and nights passed, her tension relieved, and people on the earth got day and night, and then Yama got his heaven abode, and he was the first mortal to travel, and all that stories are there. So this is one story where sister is coming and trying to have sexual relationship with the brother, and the brother is restraining. That is the more that take that one line from this story. Nachiketa, the same thing happens where Yama gives, as Dr. Pai mentioned story, he is giving all the boons, but he does not want to give the secret of what happens after the death. But then somehow he gives that. Savitri Satyavan also the same story happens. He wants to take the soul of Satyavan, but Savitri stops. With all these three stories, what we learn? There is some problem happening in execution of job for Yama. Yeah, he is not able to do it. There is something which he wants to, but he is not. Some problem, some issues come now and then. So problems related to executing work, job issues can be possible, delays can be possible, sometimes tough situations these people may have to be where what to do. He has got some problem with Yami. Sibling issues can happen. Issues with siblings can be a major deal. I'm not saying sexual issues, something like that, but any issues, maybe money issues. Money issues are very common with siblings, correct? Something where I don't know what is the, in Hindi we have a term, Dharma Sankat. Dharma Sankat, I don't know the exact word for that in English. A situation comes where there's a problem where you have to compromise on your values or something like that, person has to face. And why this happens, note problem in executing work and all, because if you see the work, who is responsible for work? Saturn gets debilitated here at this point, 20 degrees of Aries. Is it because that's why Saturn is testing you? Probably, I don't know. Just a point to be noted. Maybe people who are strong with Bharani, or people who have Lagna in Bharani or Moon in Bharani or some like that. I'm not saying everyone will have that or something, depending upon their house where Bharani is placed, accordingly you will get it. So think about those. So all the stories are fine, but see what you learn from the stories. And as Dr. Pai said about 3 boons coming, 3 stars, 3 boons, maybe something related to 3. Maybe I think Bharani people should look back into their life and see what it is and comment on it probably and tell us what it is. But it looks like with all these 3 stories, where Mr. or Dr. Yama has a problem, basically what to do. And somehow, but one good thing I like is Yama is very compromising. You see, he compromised with Nachiketa, he compromised with Savitri, and finally, I think he was also a man of character, and with Yami he did not, and then he left his body, went aboard and all. So I feel that Yama is a good guy. We should be friends with him probably. Maybe. Anyway, that was the thing. Back to our normal, the star is called the star of restraint. We can see that why this is called the star of restraint. Power to take things away and move on. Foundation above is removal of life from the body. Okay. Foundation below, carrying the soul to ancestor realm, to be the lord of ancestors. Shakti is upper Bharani Shakti. Power to take things away and move on, and result of Shakti moving on to the next world. So there's some transformation from one to the other, one world to the other, going from one level to the other. Is always, I think from all this we can see that there is also some because we know there are some serious transformation nakshatras such as Ardra, Mula and all those, and even Bharani will be also one among them, I guess. Purusharth is Artha, Gana, Manushya, Trimurti, Vishnu. Animal is male elephant, bird as crow. Again, it is said that Yama also has crows and pigeons are associated with Yama, they say. Pigeons, I don't know how come, but I learned, I was looking at the slides today. In fact, it was interesting. This is the nakshatra video which I'm least prepared, because I have so much work. I have to grade my exam, everything is due on next 2 days. Just in few hours I made. Again, see, the problem with work happened. Overload of work. Because I will at least make 2-3 days before, but this time it was few hours before. I don't know why, last minute. Every time this is maybe, and Yama is also considered as Yama, Chitra Gupta, and all his Yamdutas are nothing but they are withholding the secrets of nature, they say. Chitra Gupta. Now, Chitra Gupta, it is a nice story about Chitra Gupta. Of course, we are talking about Yama. It so happened that Yama and Yamdutas were doing wrong. I think UG was mentioning they were doing wrong in their analysis, and so Brahma was very unhappy. He said, well, he comes to Yama and said, you should be careful. You're not taking proper accounts, probably. Yama said, how can I do this much work? I'm alone. What can I do? You are giving, see, again, work. Yama is also bothered with work, and he complains to Brahma, basically. Then Brahma thinks about it, and I think he thinks, and in his mind, in his secrecy, in his mind, he makes he gives birth to Chitragupta. Now, why Chitragupta? Chitra means mind. Chitra, he makes a picture of that person in his mind in secrecy. Gupta means secret. So that's why the 2 names, Chitra plus Gupta, Chitragupta. So he said, now he is your assistant. Now he will help you. That's why Yama got assistant of Chitragupta. Now, Chitragupta, Yama, and all those people are very good in keeping secrets. They said they know some secrets. See, that's why Nachiketa asked Yama the second boon of to know the secret behind that fire ritual. Okay. So yeah, so the secret is why I was telling about secrets. Okay, because yeah, see, that's the secret. Of course, when you deal with Bharani, some issues with work can happen, you know. And the other one secret which probably we should give that whenever we do any nakshatra, that nakshatra themes play so beautifully in our lives. I think back in behind the scenes we don't say, but that's how nakshatra creates that energy probably. So that's the secret. All videos till now we have done, I think that energy of the nakshatra, at least I have seen in some point or the other. I think all of you may also have seen. So that's the secret for today. So nakshatra becomes active. Anyway, the tree is the amla tree, or the Indian gooseberry we call, is the tree associated with this nakshatra. Now, amla has got anti-diabetic, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It increases the immunity. Amla is considered to be the richest source of vitamin C. Okay, it increases the immunity, fever treatment, viral, fungal, and bacterial infections. Now, remember, it is said that it is also useful for treating sexual related problems, especially in males. If you have low vigor, it is good. It has got aphrodisiac property. So good for sex life. Again, sexual organs, you see those connection there. In females, it is said that it's helpful in the case of fertility, helps to build that uterus muscles. So sometimes the muscles are not that strong, they say, and it is very difficult for conceiving. Amla can be good for that. So I want to point the story of how this amla tree, which is a tree of Bharani nakshatra, is connected with the sexual organs, and especially having the aphrodisiac property and all those things. Very good connection with sexual things. Anti-aging, it is said as anti-aging. Anti-aging means what? Aging, reducing your death. Relate with that deity or deity of Yama here. It improves voice and sore throat. I was thinking, why voice and sore throat? Maybe, I don't know, Yama, Bharani nakshatra or Aries is your face, correct? Maybe, I don't know, throat, but it says that it also improves voice and sore throat. But I
think it's a Venus ruled nakshatra, right? So Venus is also second lord and all that. So probably.
Yeah, Venus is also for singing and all, probably. Yes, good point. That is the thing here. Now, if you say that Bharani, you have 4 padas. The 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th padas are basically associated with Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. Since all the padas are in Aries sign, the Lord is Mars. The nakshatra Lord is Venus for this. Remember, Venus. So Mars and Venus, again, as Sandeep was just pointed out, Venus. The first pada is Leo. So the Lord becomes Sun. The second pada is Virgo, becomes Mercury. Third pada is Libra, Venus. The fourth pada is again Mars. So if you see these planets here, lot of Mars and Venus. Again, what is Mars and Venus? Mars is male, Venus is female. You see, again, Mars-Venus connection here. So Bharani makes sense of sexual things and all those things because it's a very having high energy of Mars and Venusian energy. And especially the third pada looks like more dominance of Venus. The fourth pada looks more dominance of Mars probably. So again, the Mars-Venus connection is clearly seen in this Bharani nakshatra. It has got both energies of Mars and Venus. Our male elephant is considered as the animal symbol of Bharani nakshatra. Now, what are the regions associated with Bharani nakshatra is, one is this Ganges Delta region. We were talking about those delta plains of Nile, and this is considered as one of the most fertile land. This delta region is, see, if you ask me the population of India, where is it most? It's along all that river edge, you know, Ganges, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and all. I think, I don't know, if you really do the population density, Bangladesh is much more population density wise, it's much more than India, I guess. It's a small country, but I guess Bangladesh has got more population density, if I'm not wrong. Considering the area and the number of people. What is Bangladesh? Bangladesh was also India once upon a time, correct? And very fertile land. You can grow jute, you can grow rice, paddy, and everything. And see, fertile again, fertility of human beings and fertility of land. Both is when you say nakshatras and all, you just don't connect with human beings. Just don't connect with reproductive organs of human being. Also connect with the land. You know, woman is fertile means what? It can give birth to a baby. Land is fertile means what? It can give birth to many crops. So again, in all these fertile lands, delta regions, it will be very fertile. We have delta region, Ganga Brahmaputra delta here. We have Nile. In US, we have the Mississippi, correct? Mississippi delta region. I don't know. It's in Louisiana, usually. Maybe it has to be in Louisiana region.
What
I
is
think
it?
Luzerne.
A Mississippi River? It runs through
Mississippi,
Mississippi. And
yeah, it goes to the Mississippi.
it has
Yeah,
a
I
big
think.
river. You know, Togi J, interesting on the point of the elephant, you just went through it really fast. They have actual rituals for death. They have
Yeah.
they have graveyards. Out of all
Yes.
animals, they recognize death, they grieve the dead, they come back, I think, annually, and
Yes.
they will play with the bones.
Bones.
They will actually
Exactly.
get the scent of the bones to remember those who have passed. And elephants don't forget things. So I just wanted to mention that as a very
Good point.
thing. Yeah, but Mississippi River is, oh, and also before elephants, one more thing, the females also have birth rituals. So they'll like actually stand around each other, support each other's birth, the birthing process. The males will guard them from a distance. So it's just interesting, the things around birth and death. Elephants are very aware. Interesting. So, but the Mississippi River, yes, is a huge river in the US, and it does come down through the southern states. And that is all very fertile, almost jungle-like in some areas. Yeah.
It's again, it's the Bharani fertility theme playing there again, you know, for the land, for the earth, basically. Now, some people, I don't know anyone who knows this person here, is Kartiki Gonzalez, and she made a movie recently. I know, I think they won an Oscar, correct? The Elephant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whisperers. And Elephant Whisperers, again, you see the word elephants. I was like, oh, Elephant Whisperers, okay. Let's see because I saw the word elephant, and then she has got nothing in Bharani as such, but I don't know where is this Venus. Venus looks like I don't know.
Revati is the elephant too, Togi G.
Revati, that's what I pointed. Revati.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about the ascendant here. Time is unknown, but at least, but all these three planets still they are in the Libra sign. They may be definitely aspecting Bharani nakshatra there. So, and Revati definitely, Rahu in Revati, that's not going to change. It is 27 degree, exactly where most your Venus is exalted at that point. 28 degrees, correct? So, of Pisces. So she has got maybe some connection with, I think she somehow knows that she has to make some movie on elephant, and then she made it and became famous probably. Okay, the other thing, this guy, J. Marion Sims, is considered as the father of gynecology. Gynac, female organs, again, you know. And he has, because here you see, I had a trouble today, like I wanted to find something in Bharani, but I was not, generally this doesn't happen to me. It's like, I will find this thing. Today it was like, I want to find something, but I'm not getting somehow. I did something.
Can I just say, as a female, this guy came up, they're basically torturing. It's not like,
I know.
It's not like a positive. I wouldn't relate this to.
I know. That is some.
I just have to say, I would not relate this to a brilliant fellow. This guy was really horrible. So, I don't know if it would even have a relationship with like Bharani as far as like midwives and things like that. When Dr. Paiji did his class, I don't know if you remembered how many people brought forth like charts of doulas and people who help other people give birth and people who sit by the like hospice care, people who sit by people when they die, like Revati, same thing. But then a lot of people that deal with like giving birth or helping people giving birth. But I don't know about this guy's. I'm just letting you know, probably not.
But again, remember, it is death too. It's a death theme too in Bharani. Okay. Because when I was reading it in Google, yeah, it was mentioned about those what you're saying. But remember, Bharani is birth as well as death. Tomb and womb, both. So, so I think this is the tomb guy, not the womb guy, probably.
I think he was just
Uh,
a torture guy. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. But he's considered as father of gynecology. I don't know. Like, okay. So I thought maybe Gynac should be there. Then I saw this guy's name, but there's nothing in, but only moon in sitting in Vishaka at 26 degree and aspecting. So a lot of aspects. Then I said lawyer. Okay, anyway, lawyer should be there because, you know, and then Mr. Ambedkar last time also had it in Ashwini, but he has got Mercury in Bharani. And he was the law and justice minister in the first cabinet of independent India during Nehru's time. So again, the theme of lawyer coming into the picture. This guy, I need any introduction here. Again, this is also the same type of guy, tomb guy probably. It's not the womb guy, but tomb guy. And you can see
someone had mentioned a general or would become a great, Dr. Pai Team mentioned that.
In the Arnia, right? Yeah, Krishna becomes emperor or something.
Yes, becoming it. Well,
right, yes,
you know, whether people like it or not, it's a different thing, but that's what he appointed himself.
Yeah, so Hitler, right? Hitler, of course, German Kaiser and all that, right? I think Führer, right? Yeah, that's the word, Führer. Interesting, yeah.
so even this guy,
brought his downfall. I think he died in his dasha that woke up Bharani. I think it was his Shukra that took him out. So those points, that's actually Hitler's the best chart you've got here. Because if you look, I don't think it was Venus Dasha, of course, but it was his sub period of Shukra, I believe. Anyway, when his Venus got activated, it's in Bharani. And is that the fourth pada? I can't see that very well, but that's an Ashtamamsha pada.
It's a fourth pada.
That fourth pada is, yeah. So he's actually a good study for that.
Yeah. So he is also considered, can be considered a small Hitler, who knows, in a way. Womb and tomb, both can be. This guy, John Wesley Powell, he is considered as a famous geographic expedition, led a 3-month river down in the Green and the Colorado rivers at the canyon at the US. Again, the theme of river, you see. And again, when I was looking, Jupiter in Bharani here for him too. So reconnection with rivers, connection with Colorado rivers, Grand Canyon and all those things. So interesting. This guy, I was like, because I thought maybe womb and all those things. So maybe something about IVF technology and something. So I was looking who is the person who found IVF. And then this guy's name comes up. Patrick Steptoe. His name is Patrick Steptoe. And with Robert Edwards and Jean Purdy, he was a time, I don't know why I wrote unknown. It should be unknown anyways. But he developed IVF. Then I said, what is there in Bharani? But this guy has got nothing in Bharani. But what I see is, again, Mars and Venus is in Ashwini. As I said that, this, have it in, let me show you the other slide of Robert Edwards. This is Robert Edwards. Again, here, you see Venus and Saturn both in Vishaka and then aspecting. Jupiter is also aspecting the Bharani nakshatra here. And then I was thinking, like, as I said, Ashwini, Bharani, and Kritika, they go hand in hand. It's like, you know, of course, a lot of themes, even in Rig Veda, it is said that they work together probably. So somehow there's some connection with those. And Mars, Venus, again, when Mars and Venus are again combined energy, it acts like, I don't know whether it's a proper to say that, but like a Bharani nakshatra, Mars, Venus, again. So it's a birth nakshatra, or you can say male and female energy coming together. Anyway. Now I was looking, people was talking about dying and all those things. You know, on what day of the week and what calendar date many people die, as per the CDC statistics. I don't know if CDC
like
statistics.
Saturdays or something.
It is a Saturday.
Really? Wow.
It is Saturday, and on the date is said as 26th the day after Christmas, and I don't know what is the connection there. 26th December, or the New Year. Maybe this is, I think the God wants the quota of that year probably. So after Christmas, he wants to take. I still remember when I was serious 23 years back, even that was 26th December. I still remember that. So I was shocked to see that. But yeah, Saturday makes sense, but again, I won't take that because they said that the lowest was Sunday, the highest was on Saturday, and but very minute deviations in between. Of course, 5.6 millions. They calculated for some 15 years data and all those things. But if you take the standard deviation and that error, it won't be that significant. But still, as per the numbers, it's Saturday. And December, I don't know, 26th December, because I was thinking what happens on 26th December. Sun is in Mula Nakshatra there. So Mula again coming into the picture, death. So maybe, and remember, Mula again, Bhadrakali and all that connection. When I talk about festivals next, we will see that connection. In Kerala, the Bhagavati temple and all those festivals are there in Bharani Nakshatra. So I will talk when I will come to festivals. But that's how probably these things work. Probably, I don't know. Okay, Sun transits from Bharani from 27th April to 10th May. So what are the festivals which we have? This festival was just celebrated, Trishur Puram. You see, Trishur Puram comes when there's a place in Kerala, Trishur, and the Puram means Purva Falguni Nakshatra. So
yeah, it's a festival. Word for festival actually, Puram.
Puram is also Nakshatra, they call.
That's correct. Yeah, Puram. Purva Falguni, Malayalam name is Puram actually. That's correct.
Puram,
yeah.
So the sun has to be in Aries and the moon has to be in Purva Falguni. That's the time when Trishur Puram is celebrated. Now the interesting thing is, see how the elephant plays a major role in this festival, all decorated and all, and you see those connections there. So when the sun is transiting Bharani Nakshatra, that's when this festival comes up with Trishur Puram. I think it was just a few days back they celebrated.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks back. I think the temple is also Shiva temple actually, famously. I think there is some Shankaracharya story linked with that and all that. So all that is great actually. Yeah. Vadakunathan temple as it's called, yes, yeah.
Oh, Vadakunathan. Yeah, there was a movie, correct, in Malayalam, Vadakunathan?
Yeah, that's a typical thing. So Thrissur is considered to be cultural capital of Kerala because of the big festivals and so forth. They used to have like a lot of Kerala things going on there. So, so it makes sense in that also. So like Vadakunathan is like a typical cultural reference point that way. Yeah.
I was interested to see the elephants here.
Yeah, elephants for sure. All Kerala, right? Kerala, land of elephants for sure, yeah.
Kerala also land of elephants, and if you see even in that Assam region and all, many elephants.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting. Makes sense.
Yeah, because always there will be something, because I follow train, correct? So
right.
This elephant got died with this train accident, and also I will be reading whenever train accidents will happen. And there are many elephants in that region also. So the poor elephants get hit by all those. So that even in that region we have a lot of elephants, and it's all jungle region, Northeast India,
Right.
Yeah. Yamaditya, as it's also the second, which Dr. Pai was mentioning. See there, it's 2 days after Diwali, around Diwali time, and Diwali is when the sun is transiting Libra, and it's just sun is transiting Libra means what? It's opposite to Bharani, so it is aspecting Bharani, and the Yamaditya, if you say that it's a second day after the Amavasya day. So Amavasya means sun is in Libra means Amavasya also moon has to be in Libra. So generally moon is in Libra, or sometimes it can be in Scorpio too, depends upon the position. But definitely sun is in Libra and aspecting Bharani is when Yamaditya is celebrated. International Workers' Day, Dr. Pai also pointed this out. It is 1st May. 1st May is exactly when the sun is transiting your Bharani. And connection with Saturn debilitating there. We discussed about this. This is the time when Buddha Jayanti is celebrated. Now, Buddha Jayanti is celebrated on Vaishak Purnima. Vaishak Purnima means the Purnima of Vaishak month. That means the moon has to be in Vishaka Nakshatra. If the moon has to be Vishaka and it has to be Purnima, means sun has to be in Bharani. It is clear that otherwise you won't get Purnima. So that's why Buddha Jayanti is celebrated. Now, why is this Buddha connection coming here? You see the story, how it is very similar to Nachiketa. He wants to give up everything, doesn't care about that. He wants to have the higher knowledge of going eternal, getting the eternal knowledge, how to move out of all this material and enter into spiritual world and all those things. So very similar thing. He can be considered as mini Nachiketa. Who knows? So again, Buddha Jayanti, again transformation from material to spiritual. Again, another festival of Kerala, Yaswati Kavutindal. I don't know how to say that name, but It's Kurumba, Sri Kurumba Bhagavati temple in Kodangalur.
Yeah,
Kodangalur
the
is
Kodungalur Bhagavati, yes. The Kali temple, yes. I may talk about it again, but yeah, great, yeah.
it's a 2-day festival, one in Ashwini Nakshatra, one in Bharani Nakshatra.
Yeah.
It's said the Bharani Nakshatra is the birthday of Bhadrakali. So the story of Bhadrakali comes into this picture. And Bhadrakali again connection with Moola probably. And then they will be like having this, what is this? This is called Velichipada or what? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's the sword. Of course, the shamans, right? The trans-induced shamans, usually females. Men can also be, you can see a male also. Usually they wear red actually. The moment they wear red, it's like they are goddess thing actually. And then they have the sword in their hand. The sword will have bells also. That's what you see. It's a
And then
yeah.
they will hit their head, correct? They will
Yeah, they hit
again.
the head. Yeah, when they
That
get
is
in trance.
also
Yeah, so they try to hit the head and all that. So people try to stop them from killing themselves. That kind of thing. So like
again,
that
head
kind of
is
thing.
coming into picture. Again, mini
Yeah.
Rahu. They are like same.
Exactly.
Vishnu
Yeah.
is not coming. They become themselves Rahu again.
Yeah,
Hitting
exactly.
their head,
Yeah.
their face, and all the blood will be coming. I've seen those.
Connection to
Yeah.
Chinnamasta here. I don't know.
Say
Chinnamasta.
it- Yeah, it's also possible. Definitely possible.
Chinnamasta again, it's he has no head, correct? That head is
Yeah.
for Chinnamasta. So, yeah. So, with all this, what we have learned, remember Bharani, gynecologists, fertility doctors, river delta researchers, lawyers associated with Bharani Nakshatra, fertility, other sexual issues may be possible. Job issue can be possible, last minute things, job issues, delays. So, Bharani natives should plan accordingly. Maybe instead of taking 2 days, you take 4 days and plan accordingly so that all the jobs are done properly. Family connections, lot of karma with some families, things can happen. Sibling issues can be there based on some money issues or who knows what issues. Again, death related because Yama, so near death experience can happen, transformation can happen. Associated deities can be Yama, of course, but even Bhadrakali or those goddess can also be connection. There'll be some connection with Bharani Nakshatra. So it's star of restraint. Yama is a deity. Mars and Venus quality seen. Tree is Amla. Festivals, many festivals we discussed. So these are the things you have to learn, and that's what my end is. And I'm counting, and we have till now, till Ashwini, we have covered 57 hours, 39 minutes, 1 seconds. Let's see how much Bharani we will be. This time, I'm sure we will definitely we'll pass 60 hours after Bharani Nakshatra. Still counting, still few more nakshatras left, probably. My estimate is 72 hours totally after all the 28 nakshatras, but let's see, we will hit that target or not. Counting goes on. Ashlesha, I still remember we started Ashlesha around 2017 mid. It's now mid 2023. 6 years the series is going on. So let's see how many more years. Maybe we will complete in 8 years. Rahu's nakshatra. Who knows? Or 7.5. Shani's Sadesati is over then.
Yeah. Right.
Let's see. That's it.
Go ahead. Anyone else, Dr. Pai? Go ahead.
Yeah, whenever Aditya tries to show that last slide, I think this is the Santa Barbara of nakshatras, which has been happening. It's like a soap opera which is running for generations. Like 6 years is like a long time. People would, if they're still here with us, then you can see it's the Santa Barbara. Anyway, or Baywatch maybe. Who knows?
We will break that record. Don't worry. We will break all records.
Even when you talk about, we talked about, I just said Baywatch, and I was thinking the color red is coming, the blood red is something which is very much associated with Ashwini as well as Bharani Nakshatra. Okay, now, very good observations that I wanted to share with what Aditya has shared. Now, see, when you look at Vedavyas Rishi's stotra for the Navagrahas, if you really interpret the sloka for Shani and for Rahu, you will get something more hidden which he is speaking. Okay. Now, what is Shani's mantra Vedavyas Rishi has given? It is Nilanjana Samabhasham Ravi Putram Yamagrajam. Like what Aditya said, Yamagrajam is the elder brother. Shani is his elder brother of Yama. Agraj means his elder. Yamagrajam, Chaya Marthanda Sambhutam. What is Chaya Marthanda Sambhutam? Tam Namami Shaneshcharam. Okay, Sambhutam means he is formed from the union or combination. It is not said that he is taken birth from the womb. Remember this. So that means his birth is very celestial. Because he's Sambhutam, like how Kartikeya was formed. He's formed from the Sambhutam, which means the energies of Parvati and Shiva coming created a fireball for Kartikeya. Similarly, here, it can say that it is an interplay of the light and the shadow. See, as soon as we say there is a shadow, that means the light has to be in front of us. As soon as if I turn the light towards the shadow, then there is no shadow there. So why I'm saying this is, when you look at the other shloka for Rahu, Ardhakayam Mahaviryam, Chandraditya Vimardhanam, Simhika Garbha Sambhutam, which means he's here very specifically is bringing Garbha. Garbhas, only people who can be born from Garbhas are mammals, as I said, Pindajas. So he's given a mortal kind of thing for Rahu. Okay, he is very specifically saying Simika, and from her Garbha he's being born, which means that should be who can give birth, only mammals can give birth, and you can be born like that. But for Shani, he's saying Sambhutam. Sambhutam means you can interpret as born, but it is union, coming together of two entities or two energies. So basically, this Bharani nakshatra, as Aditya was also saying about Yama and Yami, is like the yin yang. It's the coming together of the yin yang. The same principles you also see, but slightly very differently, which is seen with the Ashwini nakshatra. Again, the same interplay which is happening there, but their interplay is happening with the same polarities. Here, the interplay is happening with the opposite polarities. Remember, there is both are twins, but that twins are two boys. Here, twins are a male and a female. So this is Bharani is a very much potency to bring the union or unification. That is the first point I wanted to make here, which is the yin yang concept, which is very popularized even in the Buddhist tradition. Now, one more thing I wanted to point out. And this is something which I feel most of the astrological softwares are making a big blunder. And this is my view. I can be wrong with this, my view. I'm just giving you the logic. For example, do you know what is Kal? How much is one Kal? How many hours is one Kal? Kal. One Kal is 1.5 hours. Okay. So we have 16 Kals in a day, 24 hours. Kal is Shani. See, we have two sons of Surya. One is Yama, who follows Surya. And one is Kal, who is Shani, who doesn't follow Surya. Which means he is not aligned with the sunrise and the sunset. But Yama, who follows Surya, his unit of time is called as Prahar. Have you heard of Prahar? You know what is one Prahar? 3 hours is one Prahar. So we have 4 Praharas during the day, 4 Praharas during the night. So 8. Number 8 is Yama. Number 16 is Shani. That is why I feel some astrological softwares are making a big blunder because how I got to know this is, when you go to Tamil Nadu and ask with the Siddhars are saying Rahu Kal is not aligned with Surya because he defies the Devatas. He is an Asura. He is a king of the warrior class. So he is against, so he aligns with Kal. And Kal is fixed in the Tamil Siddha tradition. Remember that. But praharas is linked with the sunrise and the sunset time, which is followed by Yama. So today, what Aditya was saying is some statistics is showing Saturday, because Shani is sudden thing which is coming. Prahar means Yama has to follow a time to come and take you. But Kal is not aligned with Surya. It is not about timing. That's why we call it Akala Mrityu sometimes, untimely death. The person had enough number of oxygen, the cylinder will come with a finite set of breaths that we can take. So which means Bharani is a nakshatra which follows the laws which are human-made laws. Who follows the cosmic laws and who rules over it? Varuna. There are two different deities. Man-made laws and man-made traditions, everything is Yama, which is not made by man, human beings. Varuna makes that, cosmic laws.
They say even after human beings die, the people whom they meet is one is Yama and Varuna. They are the judges now after they die. So these are the two kings that we have to meet them immediately after we leave the body.
No, but this is what I was just wanting. Maybe we have digressed from the topic. Let us go to the topic of whatever is Bharani Nakshatra, because
I think it's a perfect topic, Dr. Pai, because Shani, right? Shani is Kala and time and all that. So Bharani is a nakshatra where fundamental understanding of time needs to be put in place. So it's a appropriate topic for sure.
Because I also feel why this topic is coming is this is as like saying what is life and what is life after death. That is the mysticism that people want to know what happens after death. And I think Bharani Nakshatra is giving you that inquisitiveness to want to, just like Nachiketa went and asked his children.
Yeah, Nachiketa.
What happens after death?
Nachiketa. You know, Evji, that's what we talked like before starting the recording. You're talking the same thing. Like, what are we doing?
So
Why?
interesting. It's always so interesting. I know, but we were.
I know it's interesting. And one more thing. See, Yama brings you the end and your regeneration, rebirth. But in astrology, we say Shani is the karmic record holder. He's the reservoir. He holds your karmas for you. Yeah, somebody is logging it down. Who Chitra Gupta, who is an assistant or a law keeper of Yama. Now, Yama, after he is done with his duty, he instructs Chitra Gupta to pass on the book to Shani so that he takes it from there. Because he is karma karka. He dictates your karmas on the earth plane, which again we call it, this is not called earth plane, we call it Mrityu Loka. Here death is certain. In Mrityu Loka,
You're reminding me that movie, you know, Anupam Kher, and that in Telugu it was Yamalila. Hindi, that movie, that Kader Khan is the Yamraj, Asrani is the Chitragupta. What was that? You know, what was that movie? I forgot that movie. Takdir Wala. You remember? They lost the. Don't remember? They lost. So Anupam Kher is the Yamraj, Asrani is the Chitragupta, and then they lose that book. And the Brahma said that now you have to go on the earth and find the book. If you don't find it in 30 days, you have to live there only, something like that. So they come down, they find the book, and this Venkatesh is the hero, and that's the movie. Ravina Tandon is the actress in Hindi. So it reminds me about that story, you know, and the fun, and it's a nice comedy movie and all. So people may know it's a Hindi movie, 94, 95. In the year 94, 95, it was made. So
I'll have to watch that movie. I don't remember, you know.
Don't remember.
Okay, I think that was me. Anybody wants to add something? Because I just wanted to bring that. Okay, one more point I wanted to share with you guys, because he brought about the tree, which is Amla. Now, there is also festival which is celebrated called as Amla Navami. Have you heard of Amla Navami? Like we have Akshaya Tritiya, there is also called as a day called as Akshaya Navami. It falls in the month of Kartika, in the Shukla Paksha, and in the 9th day, which is 2 days before Deva Uttani Ekadashi. Before the 2 days before that. Now, this is a very important day that many people who are devotees of Krishna, they go and circumambulate, they call him Giridhar, right? Which means they go around the region where Mathura or Govardhan. Why? It is said that during this day, Krishna left Vrindavan never to come back to Vrindavan or Gokul. He went on his duty, which is his duty was his life purpose. So to Dharma accomplish, he went to Mathura. And he never returned to Gokul or Vrindavan after that. So typically it would, I do not know, but typically what they say is around 10 years is when he left. Once he left, he never came back to that town.
Yeah.
So it is also believed this day is also said to be the first day of Satyuga. That is why it is called Satya Yugadi also. And it is Satyuga's first day. So this is why this is a very important day, and it is believed anybody who plants an amla tree or worships amla tree, a lot of stories are, you get long life. And it also puts you on a path of your dharma, which means I'm not saying you're doing everything dharmic, but those people who feel stuck in their life, they don't see what is their life purpose. Maybe planting an amla tree can help you in realizing, like how Krishna on this day, which is also called as Amla Navami, is the day when he set his foot outside Vrindavan, which is Gokul. So all that what you know about Krishna and his Vrindavan's Leela all have happened by the age of 10. And then once he went out from there, he never came back to that town. He spent all his time in Mathura, and then from there, Dwaraka and other stories, whatever have come after that. So I think Bharani can bring you transformations to put you on a path of your duty. If you are not aligned, probably this is one nakshatra that you can ask, because see, it is also, if Kritika nakshatra is the first nakshatra as per Atharva Veda, then Bharani becomes the Abhisheka nakshatra, which means the coronation that happens, the nakshatra of Agni. Okay. Anyway, Sandip or anybody else who wants to.
That makes more sense. Bharani, the death nakshatra, the last nakshatra, Kritika, the first.
It is the last nakshatra, and it also is the end nakshatra of Pitriyana nakshatras. So we have two parts. Kritika to Vishaka becomes the Devayana. Anuradha to Bharani becomes the Pitriyana. Now, what many people believe is it is only how the phases of the moon are. It says that, again, in the Shri Vidya Upasana, they say from the Dvitiya Tithi in the Krishna Paksha to Chaturdashi Tithi, it is said the Devatas are drinking the rasa from the moon. They are drinking the nectar, which is the soma, that's why every day you see it is depleting, because the Devatas are drinking. On Amavasya Tithi is exclusively only the Pitris can drink. And on Purnima Tithi, it is said both Devatas and Pitris are drinking. And from the Shukla Paksha, Pratipada Tithi, the Sushumna Nadi, which is the rays, the Sushumna rays from the sun are coming and adding the Amrit again to the moon. This is what Sri Vidya believes in, how the phases of the moon are. So Sushumna of the Surya is adding nectar to the moon in the waxing phases of the moon. Or Nitya Devis are coming and joining the moon every day. And in the waning phase, each day a Nitya Devi is leaving, which is the Amrit for the Devatas.
So I can be the Rahu and drink directly from the sun.
Sorry?
I can be the Rahu, put a pipe in the sun and drink directly. That's a shortcut.
Giving the nectar.
Yeah, directly go to Surya, no? Get your supply from there.
Right.
Maybe I will be chopped off by the Vishnu then.
Yeah, head cut
You'll
off, right?
be the
It can
Barbaric.
be Barbaric, right? Yeah.
Okay, Sandeep, I think you should go ahead.
Okay. So, Dr. Pai, I think you have shared your thing, right? Completely?
Oh, yeah, yes, I've shared more than what I should be sharing. I think
Okay.
I'm just carried away with the Bharani energy, Apa Bharani, like water, it is flowing. I
Right.
should stop. I
Right.
should
Right.
put
Right.
a time.
No, it's great. What was shared was great, Dr. Pai. I think, you know, it was interesting. So, like, I'll kind of fill in the blanks with many points which everyone added actually, and also I want to add some more bit also. One thing, of course, as the omens for the video and all that, it's interesting. Yeah, we are making as sun is very close to Bharani nakshatra. At least that's good. Rahu is also close to Bharani nakshatra, though it's in Ashwini nakshatra right now and all that. Jupiter is also there. So yeah, we are like, you know, as Aditya mentioned, we are like teaching about Bharani and all that. Now, also the interesting omen was that usually EVG is like second or third, but today, you know, unusually she was the first one actually. Usually it's Aditya and all that. So you can see Bharani itself, that itself shows the prominence of feminine energy or a Shakti energy and all that, that kind of thing. Females are, of course, the one capable of giving birth actually. So that birth energy is very strong. That's something you can actually say with Bharani. That's one thing I want to highlight also. Of course, that has its own things, you know. So usually the birth and death is a very powerful theme here actually. Now, whether in terms of, and this is a very fascinating point. So, women who are pregnant, so they do carry Shakti actually. They do carry a specific kind of Shakti. So there is a Rahu kind of energy that is building up within them. And when the moment they give delivery, the moment they give birth to a child, then the Rahu in the chart gets improved significantly because now the genes which are pulled within you and your siblings in that generation, now there has one more person to energetically carry it. So you'll begin to see when with each birth of a child, the Rahu on the chart gets improved actually. And many times you will see birth of a child usually brings in a lot of money to the father or to the mother, wealth to the family, and so forth because of that. So that's a very, and this is a very direct point. So both Bharani and Bharani nakshatra having a link with Rahu is a very interesting point. Now the same thing can be said with death of someone. So if death of an elder, if it happens, so if a death of an elder, the eldest person in the family dies, the grandfather dies, now immediately Rahu is getting spoiled, or Rahu is actually, there is less people to handle that Rahu energy. You might see a sudden impact of Rahu energy kind of thing happening. So usually in typically in India and all that, they don't do any rituals when someone has died in the family. So typically for an entire year, they might not do, you know, big rituals, or they might not celebrate festivals and so forth and all that, which is a normal thing. Now, surprisingly, what I've noticed is that if people do decide to do something in the first year of some death happening in the nearby family, there is some problems that will come. So Rahu kind of problems is also possible for at least for 1 year actually. So Rahu, wherever that sign is placed in, there'll be a challenging thing. And there's a pure birth and death thing actually. Birth happens, your Rahu improves. Blessings come, wealth comes and all that. Death happens, Rahu is actually considered to be spoiled. Now, in some cases, if the grandfather is carrying or grandmother is carrying negative energy, that person dies, then you might get a relief also. Now, that's a very rare thing. But this is a very interesting birth and death thing I want to highlight. Now, of course, birth is also very interesting. So sometimes karma with a pregnant woman and all that, you can say that with Bharani. So either a hidden pregnancy. So Jupiter is about to get Bharani. A lot of women are about to get pregnant. That kind of thing you can say quite easily. You can say that. Also, like with karma with pregnant women. Now it can be good karma, can be bad karma, depending on the house placement and so forth. So like either you took care of a pregnant woman when they were going through a tough time, or you kicked out a pregnant woman because you have some karma and all that. So that kind of thing you can actually see with Bharani. That is one big thing here. Now, of course, the curse of a pregnant woman. So many times in ancient times and so forth, when women did not have any rights, so it was a very tough thing for them. So, you know, they might have The father might not have been around and so forth. And usually those kind of karmas you begin to see. So of course, one of the themes which Dr. Pai mentioned in the original Bharani video was that he mentioned how Yama had a karma with Sanjana, who was a stepmother. So usually this karma with stepmother, stepfather and all that is also commonly found here. So either you're away from your birth father or away from your birth mother. Now either the birth mother died or the birth father is away for some legal reasons and so forth. So all this typical child custody issues and so forth, all that kind of thing usually plays out here. Now that's where you begin to see the law and all that. Of course, then also you begin to understand the system of, how the lawyers are actually taking money out of you and all that. You can clearly see that when you see through the whole thing. Though it's a painful thing to see, but you can see that kind of energy very strongly actually. Now, this particular karma of a pregnant woman. Now, this is another thing. Now, it's also interesting that Yama in the story with Sanjana, he also kicks Sanjana also. So he kicks his mother, is what it's, sorry, he kicks Chaya. My bad. So he kicks Chaya, who was supposed to be his mother. But then Chaya curses him back, may your leg be filled with worms and so forth. And then Yamaraj goes to Surya and says, she's not my mother, no mother would curse her own child. And then Surya's like, yeah, you're right. So, and then Chaya comes out with the truth and so forth. So many times these natives will have a very strong, persistent sense of finding the truth no matter what. And that can actually become very strong to the point of even questioning their own family members actually, or people who appear to be their own family members also, that kind of karma. Now, many times, this also sometimes imply they might also harm their mother figure at some point. So harsh words towards mother figure, physical abuse towards their mothers and so forth, sometimes can also happen. So that's also a very challenging thing with Bharani. So it's like, it's almost like they are trying to find the truth of the situation, but along the process, a mother figure is getting impacted. So sometimes that kind of karma can also play out. Now, of course, but after all this, Yama gets to become gets to be the lord of the Pitruloka and all that. He also becomes the overseer of death and all that karma kind of thing plays out. Now, interestingly, at this point, there is a very fascinating link that is playing out with Pitris and so forth. Now, Pitris is linked with the nakshatra of Maga, and you find that so Maga nakshatra. I think this is also something that Dr. Pai mentioned before. How like Maga nakshatra natives will actually end up listening to a Bharani nakshatra native more, just because energetically they feel that Bharani nakshatra or Yamaraj is their boss kind of thing actually. So it's like the king of the Yamaloka or Pitruloka, and they are just residents of the Pitruloka. So a Maga nakshatra native will never listen to anyone else, but they might only end up listening to a Bharani nakshatra native. So there's a linkage between a Bharani nakshatra native and a Maga nakshatra native can quite often happen. Husband and wife combinations, boss and secretary combination. I mean, the CEO still has to listen to the secretary for his scheduling and all that. You can see that kind of thing. So you might see that kind of thing going on. Husbands and wives, father, mother, father, children, that kind of thinking, that kind of linkage also, you'll see with that. Now, it's interesting, Yuji also mentioned the story of Vidura, how Yamaraj was cursed by the sage, and so forth, and he had to be born in a lower loka to clear out his karma with that sage of that higher loka. Now, surprisingly, when he actually came down to the Bhuloka as to be born as Vidur, he actually made his chief amongst the Pitris, who is Aryaman, as the temporary lord of Yamaloka and Pitruloka actually. So Aryaman is Uttar Falguni. Usually you are more likely to find, Bharani nakshatra native, having good friends with Uttar Falguni nakshatra placements and so forth, and they'll have a karma like that. So either they'll find, okay, I'm going to do this thing, help me out here. And this might be the colleagues you work with and so forth, kind of thing might also happen. So this linkage between Bharani and Aryaman or Uttar Falguni can also play out. Now, this could also be a very good thing, good relatives, good friends, could be a husband-wife thing also, to be frank. Or like temporary people who are stepping in for you kind of thing. And so this could also be relatives and all that quite easy. Now, the next nakshatra is very fascinating. Now, this is a big thing. So in the sense that so the stories of Nachiketa. So one common theme you can see with Nachiketa is that Nachiketa, of course, is a young child, 16-year-old child, who's actually asking questions of, he specifically asked 3 boons of Yamaraj also, which is also very fascinating. And then, but there is another parallel that is happening with Savitri also the wife. Now Savitri, if Savitri and Gayatri are the wives of Brahma also at the same time. So you begin to see one interesting thing. Now Gayatri mantra can be linked with Savitur, which is falling in Hasta. So there's a big clue there. So you can say that Savitri is actually can be having a linkage with Hasta. Now Nachiketa is actually a young child. So he's like a Mercury actually. He's not Jupiter, he's not Venus, he's Mercury. And Mercury is a planet that is getting exalted in Hasta. So you will find that Bharani, and more importantly, Yamaraj himself rides a buffalo, the animal of which is Hasta, animal linked with Hasta Nakshatra. So you'll find that Bharani Nakshatra native will have to succumb to what a Hasta Nakshatra native will have to say. So the Hasta Nakshatra native tell me the 3 boons, give me 3 boons. They'll have to, and they'll end up doing it. So you think about Bharani Nakshatra controlling a, Maga Nakshatra native, but all Nakshatras will have some other Nakshatra controlling them also. One way or the other it will play out, it will balance itself out. So you'll see the Hasta Nakshatra native having a direct control almost over a Bharani Nakshatra native because of that. So like the Bharani Nakshatra native is planning to do something, just like how Aditya said, Yamaraj is trying to do his job, but there was a problem. A Hasta Nakshatra native created a problem. Now, if you look at the natural zodiac, you can see Hasta Nakshatra is falling 6 houses away from Bharani Nakshatra also. So that also makes a perfect sense with respect to why challenges came forth. Uttara Falguni, after all, is technically falling 5th house and 6th house. So there is a linkage there. Maga Nakshatra is falling 5 houses away from Bharani. So there is a the Bharani Nakshatra is having a 5-9 thing going on. So Maga Nakshatra would look at Bharani Nakshatra as an advisor and all that. You can see that. So that is a very interesting thing.
Nachiketa, Nachiketa is Na sound, which is Anuradha Nakshatra, correct?
That's also correct.
That's also 8-6 relation.
Yeah,
again.
Exactly correct. So that's a good point. In fact, Na sounding natives can N letter names or Na sound beginning names especially, or Na sound in their names can also create an 8th house kind of effect, which is a sudden problems or unexpected problems and so forth for Bharani Nakshatra native. That's a very default kind of a straightforward thing also. That's a very good point. Now, the other thing, continuing in the nakshatra, is the next one is actually Vishwakarma's Chitra Nakshatra. And if you look at Chitragupta, he is the assistant of Yamaraj. Now, what is interesting is that, so as I think Aditya mentioned, he complains to, I think, Dr. Pai or Aditya, I forgot who. So like, Yamaraj complains to Brahma, okay, give me an assistant, I have too much work, and Chitragupta comes. Now, Chitragupta is actually Chitra Nakshatra quite easily. Chitra Nakshatra name itself is there in Chitragupta. Very easily you can say Chitra Nakshatra energy is there in Chitragupta's case also. So Chitragupta is a record keeper and all that. So usually Bharani Nakshatra native is more likely to get a very good assistant at some point in time. Someone who will assist them. Someone like a good secretary, like a good student, or some things like that, who will actually play this kind of role at some point in time. And Chitragupta is having karma with pictures. So a lot of picture kind of karma can happen for these natives. So Chitragupta, of course, is secret pictures and so forth. So of course, Bharani is the nakshatra having sexual organ of the female as the symbol. So you put a secret picture, you get exposed and all that, sexual scandal and all that. Typical themes you can find if you have malefics here and malefic houses and all that with Bharani nakshatra and all that because of that. Now Chitragupta is also interesting because there is a record keeping karma. So at some point, these natives will have to maintain records, like what are the bills, everything, what are the, when did I get the thing? Some karma records can also happen depending upon the planetary disposition here also. That is also, so nakshatra linkage is very interesting. And of course, Swati nakshatra is the exactly opposite nakshatra to Bharani nakshatra. And one of the offerings which is usually given to, now this is very interesting, this is a very fascinating point. I came to know about, there is a temple in Nepal, which is like a very famous Durga temple, if I'm not mistaken. They have like 54 buffaloes and 54 goats are sacrificed exactly on the Navami day during the Navratris actually. And there's just, a temple is open just once a year. They bring in like 54 buffaloes, 54 goats, they sacrifice it completely once a year. Now that's what happens there actually. They still follow that tradition and so forth and all that. But the idea that you're sacrificing a buffalo. Now buffalo is a very, if you look at the nature of buffalo is a stuck animal. Buffalo does not move, bears gaya pani mein, right? So that kind of thing. So the buffalo has gone into the buffalo, it's never going to come out, So usually these natives also will have a thing like where they have, and Yamaraj is riding on a buffalo. So they might, so they take shower, they're taking long showers. They are taking bath kind of thing. They are like enjoying their bath and all, 3-hour bath. Typical Bharani nakshatra native kind of thing actually. That kind of thing can actually happen here also. Now, of course, this is applicable to Hasta and Swati, but Bharani is also having this direct link because of the buffalo linkage. Now, I wanted to highlight one more aspect.
Definitely Hasta and all.
Yeah, you can say that. Now, see
I do that, so I know that.
Now, also
and I don't get irritated if someone. I don't get irritated if someone disturbs me during my bath.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Be ready to fight after I come from the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly right. So that kind of thing will happen. So that kind of bathroom karma. Yeah, exactly right. That will play out. That's a very interesting point actually. Now, this is, of course, there are some more points also. So I did mention about pregnancy karma, unplanned pregnancy karma and all that can sometimes happen. Now of course, Swati Nakshatra is exactly opposite to Bharani Nakshatra. Now, what is interesting is that Yamaraj actually shares a lot of knowledge to Nachiketa. He's sharing it that Upanishad is considered to be one of the primal, very important Upanishads after all, principal Upanishads and all that stuff. So this blessing of Goddess Saraswati is something that these natives will eventually come across in their lifetime. So because Swati is exactly opposite to Bharani, so Saraswati. So there is Swati in Saraswati also. You'll find that kind of aspect coming in time. And keyword is coming in time. So, and what is surprising about that is that Amla is a fruit. Why is Amla the fruit for Bharani Nakshatra? If you eat Amla first time, it is sour. It is immediately sour. If you have eaten Amla, you know that it's sour. Eventually, after some time, it becomes sweet. So anything in life, so initially it is always sour. But then when you eventually time comes and so forth, eventually it becomes very sweet. So they do say that wine ages like, you age like wine and all that. So wine, of course, it becomes much more richer and more great flavor comes when it's old and all that. That kind of aspect actually. Now, so these are some good points. Now, the other points I want to share. Now, it's interesting with Yudhishthira, who was the son of Dharmaraja, who was called as Dharmaraja and all that in Mahabharata. He had this very fascinating karma with the elephant actually. So in the famous story in the Mahabharata, he was approached, Dronacharya could not be defeated. So only way to defeat was that his Ashwatthama, they had to create an illusion about Ashwatthama being dead. So of course, Yudhishthira cannot speak a lie. So Bhima was asked by Krishna to slay the elephant, Ashwatthama, whose name was Ashwatthama. And then now then everyone is celebrating Ashwatthama is dead. Now Dronacharya comes to see this and Dronacharya is asked, Dronacharya approaches Yudhishthira, I know you will not lie. Tell me what happened, right? Is Ashwatthama dead? Now, famously, Yudhishthira says, Ashwatthama hata, Ashwatthama is dead. Iti narova kunjarova. So, iti narova kunjarova. So that means that the man, not the man, but the elephant. Now, what is interesting is that at this point, the second half is when Krishna makes it louder. So Krishna asks the soldiers to beat up the drums so that the second half is not understood. Now, this is a very important point. So many times this complete knowledge, the karma of not passing complete information, that kind of karma can happen. And it said that was the only karma. Now, there are two aspects also. There is also one more aspect where they say, one more version of the story where they say Yudhishthira supposedly reduced his voice in the second time. That's an act by Yudhishthira, and which is the only lie which Yudhishthira said, because of which during Swargarohan time, Yamaraj had to show him the Yamaloka and the Hell Patal Loka and all that. So that's a very important point. So at some point, these natives will not pass on the complete information because of circumstances or whatnot. At some point, they'll have to say a white lie. That's a guaranteed thing that is going to happen. At some point, there'll be an elephant in the room which they'll have to address. That kind of karma will actually play out for these natives. And this is a very important point. So completion karma. Now, completion karma is a very important thing with Bharani. So as I think Dr. Pai and EG also mentioned, so at some point, something will end for them. A big karmic cycle in the family can end. A new karmic cycle can begin also at the same time. So this could be a karmic pattern. Now, this is very, very interesting. I was actually talking to, I was talking to one of these natives who had a troubled mother, alcoholic mother and all that recently. So what this was going on, and now what his father actually surprisingly said something. You have to let go of the mother whom you thought you knew. You have to grieve for her. You have to think of that mother whom you know is dead. You have to grieve for that person. Now, approach a new, more alcoholic, more abusive mother as a different person. That kind of thing. So it's a very tough thing. So even to deal with the emotion of grief of a living person can also happen with Bharani. And this native actually had Bharani also. He actually had a I mean, he had a nightmare of planets, but you could still see that. So you could see this particular thing going on actually. But sometimes it's grief karma, death karma. Now, usually death is something that is a very powerful balancer of karma. So in fact, there are a lot of powerful meditations on death. In Buddhist tradition, there are plenty. So which is great. So when EG actually brought about the Book of the Dead and Bardo and all that, which is amazing actually. So in fact, Bardos, they say there are many Bardos also. You can be a lower Bardo and higher Bardo and all that. But the goal of the Book of the Dead is that you don't need to die to go through that. You can start to purify your karmas even now. So, that kind of aspect. There is a powerful opportunity with the Book of the Dead also. And when you understand that there are aspects of yourself stuck in very old patterns and so forth, it is a very powerful way to break through those patterns now so that you can begin a new thing. That's a very, very important thing also. Now, the other very fascinating thing about, the Mahabharata also is that they say there are 3 gems in Mahabharata, one being the Bhagavad Gita, the second being the Vishnu Sahasranam, and third thing which they actually say is actually Vidur Niti actually. So in ancient times, Vidur Niti was a very powerful text which kings would actually learn about, and that was a big thing. Kings would study the Vidur Niti, how to rule a kingdom and all that. Of course, as I think Dr. Pai or Aditya mentioned, it was like the Vidura's wisdom was not absorbed by the Rashtra and so forth and all that. So these natives will have the karma to give advice which is not absorbed by the other person. That kind of karma can happen, but it might eventually play out. It might become very important after death and all that. It can also happen. That's also one more karma that can play out. Now, in typically in Yamaraj, of course, is the judge of your karma. So usually the good side of judge is that you can judge things or have the faculty of discrimination correctly. But there's a proclivity towards judging people in Bharani Nakshatra. They are more likely to say this clan is bad or this family is bad. That proclivity is very strong. Where Aries also, you'll see that kind of aspect very strong. But eventually, they will learn in time the aspect of which UG beautifully said, the idea of like the right and wrong, the dharma and all that is the final thing which Yudhishthira has to leave before he has to go towards this thing. Before his Swargarohan is complete. So this aspect of judging, being judgmental. Now, these natives literally might have to play the role of judges, like in competitions and so forth, eventually. At some point, that kind of karma will happen. That's also the other aspect. Now, this is also very, of course, Saturn is getting debilitated in Bharani. Now, because of which they do say, so any kind of Saturnian deities, menstruating women usually should be more careful and so forth. This is one of the things they usually say. So sometimes for instance, in Kerala, there is a famous Ayyappa temple where menstruating women are not allowed because the energy of that temple will be, it's a very high Saturn, debilitation of Saturn will happen. So wombs will energetically be affected is the reason for that. So of course, there was a big controversy about that and all that a couple of years ago. So that's still almost like still going on. But this understanding of Saturn, once you understand Saturn, once you understand Bharani is the point where Saturn is getting debilitated, no energetically aware woman is going to go to like Ayyappa temple and all that, especially when you find a lot of Saturn there, a lot of brahmacharis there and all that. Everyone wearing black, thousands of black people there and all that, like thousands of black cloth wearing people there and all that. You'll see that it's too much Saturn. So the creative principle is actually having a problem in very strong Saturn in temples actually. So that is also one more aspect. Now, this menstruation related problems can also happen. So sometimes they do say, some temples where they're actually, women when they're menstruating, they're not expected to visit temples. So sometimes because menstruation, blood is always continuing when blood menstruating thing is happening. So when that is coming, so they say the field of the temple, the kshetra of the temple, it could actually, the energy could be impacted. Now, there is good side to it, there is bad side to it. I mean, there are hardcore temples where menstruating women has to be used. There are but generic temples, this can happen. So sometimes the karma of a menstruating woman. So someone, if they started menstruating when they are in a temple.
There are also temples where men are not allowed.
Actually, correct. So in fact, the Kamaja temple, women are not actually, only women are the ones who are purifying the goddess when it's like, when the goddess is menstruating there actually. So men are not allowed actually during that time period. So you have to wait 3 days when the women do the purification ritual, then you can go in actually. So it's a very powerful thing. Of course.
Even in Kerala, there is some temple, I remember, I don't forget that one temple where only women are allowed. They make some Attukal
temple is a famous temple. Attukal Bhagavati temple in close to Trivandrum is a famous temple. The women do the pongal actually. So that's the thing. Men cannot make the pongal, which is the rice and so forth. Women has to make the pongal and offer it to the goddess. So that is a very woman-based ritual which happens in Mass and so forth. And that's a good point. Good point, Aditya. Now the menstruation kind of karma I've seen. So either now some women are like atheists, they're like, I don't care, I'll just go, I'm menstruating. They come back there, they have some job issues and all that because of that. So that kind of thing can happen. If you know astrology, Saturn gets doubled in Bharani, you can see why that kind of thing happened. Now, the other aspect also I want to, but of course, the whole karma around menstruation, and perhaps it might have been taken to an extreme and all that. So sometimes first menstruation trauma and all that for young teenage girls and all that, that kind of karma might also be linked with Bharani also in that regard. That kind of karma can also happen. Now, the Saturn gets doubled in Bharani. So, and as Aditya clearly mentioned, these natives will have a time management problems. That's a real problem. So usually these natives are more likely to be chronic procrastinators in general. So they are more likely to do everything at the last minute and so forth, which is a real problem for these natives. So usually the reason why energetically that is happening is Yamaraj is someone who comes alive when the moment is when someone is about to die. So you're trying to, the deadline is approaching, that's when we all come alive, right? So that kind of thing. So usually it becomes very important to recognize or increase the deadlines for a particular project. Similar to that. So the moment you plan in terms of deadlines, you can actually, and you increase the number of deadlines, you can actually get a lot of things done with Bharani also. So, and usually Bharani Nakshatra natives are usually the natives who come in last in a wedding. They come in last in they are the last person to show up, the last man standing and so forth. That kind of karma you'll see a lot actually. So a big wedding is happening, a big event is happening. Everyone is left, the last volunteers to clean up a place. The party is over. The person who is cleaning up the place after the party, right? That's a typical Bharani kind of energy. Last people still there actually. Now, there is also a very interesting thing here with certain kinds of energy, which is also very interesting. So these natives will be very easily drawn to all these hardcore tantric or hardcore agora kind of thing, where you actually are meditating upon funeral pyre, the dead man's body, or even like you can say Smashan Kali kind of form, all that kind of aspect. So usually in Smashan Kali, apparently I didn't know, like sometimes you might have to get bit by like dogs or jackals or something, even to get a blessing of that particular god. And then people are like, yeah, bite me kind of thing, they'll be completely fine with that. So, but that kind of energy, where they're covering themselves with ashes of dead people's ashes and so forth, that kind of energy can actually become very strong here also. And many times these natives, because of that, might be having a karma of funerals and so forth. Not funerals, the places where the dead are buried, cemeteries and so forth. So many times you will find these natives might have a cemetery very close to their home. They are living close to a cemetery, or they might have a cemetery kind of a thing close to their family home or something. That kind of cemetery link is also one more thing you'll begin to see also. Now, cemetery is also interesting because you find these tombs actually. Now, when enlightened people die, they are ideally not burnt. They are actually buried. They have a tomb. And the amazing thing is that when you go to one of these tombs, you can actually get a lot of blessings. So there's a lot of samadhis out there, and it's called as Jiva Samadhi. So a lot of Jiva Samadhis, or a lot of Siddhars are there across Tamil Nadu and all that. Each other, there's an entire system of remedies based on the visiting tombs and so forth and all that. Now, however, say you have pre-existing karma towards a king or the tomb or something, or towards a particular civilization, you go and visit the tomb, you might actually get curses also at the same time. So that might work in both ways. Enlightened people's tombs, samadhi stans of gurus and all that, great. But the tombs of some civilizations and some kings and so forth, karma can also get triggered, depending upon your own thing and all that. Now, and that's a very important point in my view, because a lot of sometimes you see a lot of good things happening in your life after you visit the Jiva Samadhi of a guru and all that. You will see that particular aspect. Now, of course, the Apa Bharani is the original name. Apa means water. So, and water actually flows downhill, right? So water from the top of the hill will always flow downhill actually. So the knowledge always falls from a higher potential to a lower potential. And Bharani Nakshatra natives have this capacity to capture the energy coming from a higher energy, and they might have to hold that water for some time at least. So that particular dam building, holding things back, holding the energies forward and all that kind of energies can also happen. But of course, it's still water. So typically when you see a water in a home situation, flooding is a usual thing which you see. And typically at some point, these natives might get flooding and all that in their home because of that. And flooding is actually what defines a very fertile region, like Nile River Delta, for instance. Because the rivers are flooding, that's why they're getting those fertile rivers and so forth and all that. And of course, if you are into the Marvel cinematic universe, the Thanos, right? The guy who was fascinated by death. He wanted like how the population will entire die. You see this kind of themes, or like someone who's captured by this energy of the theme of death and all that. You see that particular Thanos. And of course, Thanos is similar to the name of god of death in Greek and all that. So that is also one more one more interesting aspect there. Now, the other certain birds of black-colored birds like a crow and I think magpies, if I'm not mistaken, they do carry the energy of Saturn without a doubt. So then feeding them is very powerful. Taking care of the elderly is a very powerful remedy here without a doubt. Taking care of a disabled person, which E.G. mentioned, completely disabled person is a very big blessing in many powerful ways. A lot of good karmas are generated with that. Now, there is a couple more things I want to say. Now, this is very interesting when Dr. Pai actually mentioned how Lord Ram actually had to send Hanuman like to chase a ring, which is a very interesting thing because Hanumanji, of course, is Shani exalted. He prevents Shani and all that. So Vayu is completely controlled. So Hanumanji can protect your life in many powerful ways. Now, so this idea of Shani, this idea of like exalted Shani capable of holding your life, actually. This is a very interesting idea because I came to know about if you participate in certain rituals, now they are called as Shaktiya rituals. Shaktiya rituals are the rituals in which you are offering meat and alcohol and all that to the goddess. So sometimes you are actually offering rooster thing. Rooster is actually dipped in alcohol, and then you make chicken curry out of it and you eat it. That's the typical thing that happens there actually. Now, some people who have attended in Shaktiya rituals, sometimes they are chronically, they are 80 plus, 85 plus, still they're not dying. Because the goddess or the energy field is actually protecting them from death. And then what they have to do is that they have to go to one of these Shaktiya temples, one of these priests living in a Shaktiya temple. They have a specific class also. You have to ask them, they come, they tell you, they do some ritual and so forth, and then they give you a coconut or something. You take the coconut, smash the coconut or something, and then after that, this energy field that was protecting is actually taken away. Then 3 days later, they die, kind of thing. So sometimes this kind of things is something that can happen when you have activated some Saturn energies very strongly. So just like how Hanumanji had to be removed, had to be displaced actually, these energy fields, there can be protective energy fields around some people and all that, especially around certain more Saturn kind of energy carrying goddesses and all that. Goddesses or energy field capable of controlling Saturn. That's the best way I can frame it. And that's a very interesting point. And Shaktiya, the idea of Shakti and all that, the idea of like even accepting death. So of course, it's the death of an animal which is happening. So Shaktiya Sampradaya is a different kind of Sampradaya in which that you are completely okay with birth and death. So death of the animal is happening, death of the thing is also happening. But of course, there might be aspects where people are like, I just like the flavor of chicken, so that's why I'm eating it. An animal is still getting hurt no matter what. But because it's an energy thing, because there is an energetic programming thing happening, there can be some side effects to that. Now, the other aspect with the Bharani which is also, which Aditya and Dr. Pai also mentioned, is Yamuna River. Now, Yamuna River is an underestimated river. If you go to Delhi and look at Yamuna River, it's one of the dirtiest rivers out there. So you won't feel like taking a dip and all that. But of course, you go to this specific point of Yamuna River, where you can, Yamuna Ghat is there and so forth in Delhi and all that, where you can get it. But it's a very powerful place for you to clear off a lot of Bharani karma. That I cannot say enough. Because even if you go to the Yamuna River, do any rituals, take dips in that river, everyone goes to Ganga like anything, right? Everyone will go to Haridwar, Kashi and Rishikesh and all that. But Yamuna River is equally very powerful river in terms of improving your Saturn. Doing any kind of rituals to Yamuna River, taking dip in Yamuna River regularly, especially on Fridays, or especially when moon is transiting Bharani, or moon is transiting of Saturn, your natal Saturn, or transiting Saturn. Very, very powerful time period to improve your karma. And I cannot say that enough. Now, even if you don't have Yamuna River, just take a dip in river. You will see changes coming up very easily. It's a very, very powerful place. So rivers do carry the energy of Bharani very strong. And many times they might end up living close to a river, getting access to a river and so forth quite easily. Now, there are a couple more points. Now, one point which the original Vedic story in which about Yama is that Indra, when he wanted to become the king of the gods. Varuna was the celestial king actually. He was the Deva Indra at that point in time. So he had to be brought down. So Indra basically asked Yamaraj to control Varuna. And then once Varuna is controlled, that is when Indra became the king of the Devas. So usually because of that, Bharani nakshatra natives will also have karma with Satabhisha nakshatra natives also very easily. So the Satabhisha nakshatra native will feel like they are getting controlled by a Bharani nakshatra native a lot. So that kind of complementary karma will also play out also very easily. Now Varuna is also amazing. Varuna is also the king of the god of the ocean and so forth. So many times this karma of ocean, traveling across the ocean and so forth can also happen very strongly. Now the other energy is that of Saturn getting debilitated. So at some point, these natives will have to work with a code of laws for themselves. This is the first point with Aries, where the blind impulse of Ashwini has to be codified and you have to work with a set of principles and so forth. It could be that even it could be a spiritual set of principles. It could be like a code which they adhere to no matter what. But that code will help them without a doubt. A Bharani native needs some kind of code. That's why Yama, in the Ashtanga Yoga, the Yamas, Angas actually showing up in the first sign of Aries very easily. So you can see this Yama, some kind of restraint has to happen. Now, restraint also means saying no to things when you should be saying no. So like this karma of saying no, the word no is a very favorite word for Bharani nakshatra native, because they will actually say, no, I don't want that, or no, you cannot do that, or whatnot. You know, that kind of aspect also you will see. And as I didn't mention, there is also a big karma with death here. So usually Bharani nakshatra can also mean early death happening in the family, as was discussed and so forth. So sometimes this funeral karma. So usually sometimes what can also happen, many other animals also die around these natives quite often. You will see they might be coming across dead birds. They might be coming across, dead animals, dead dogs, dead cats. And they might have the karma to bury the animals, say a prayer, or do the funeral of this karma. They might have to be the funeral priests in general. So that kind of karma. Now, if you attend a funeral home, you know there is a very pure, everyone is sad and everyone is depressed and so forth. But if you are witness to that home, if you are actually helping them out and all that, that's an excellent thing to help do during Bharani nakshatra thing and all that. It's an excellent way to improve that karma also. Donating towards funeral homes or helping out dead people who are going through funerals in their life and so forth is one of the best things a Bharani nakshatra native can actually help out. And any kind of help you do, you are earning merit in the eyes of Yama and all that in a big way. And I cannot say that actually improves your time. That actually improves your Saturn and so forth quite a lot. And that I cannot say that now. Anyone go close to death and all that, you can. Now see, in general, if you see a funeral in general, usually you tend to think hardly about your own life. That's a typical thing. What am I doing correctly? What am I doing incorrectly? And all that becomes very obvious. And this was an actual technique. In Tibetan Buddhism, you actually meditate upon death and all that, which is how the Bardo and all that came. You would meditate upon death. In fact, that was the Steve Jobs would famously say, think about this as the last day on earth for you. How would you actually live your life? That's what Steve Jobs would say. Of course, he had Uttarafalini Lagna, if I'm not mistaken. So you could see he was close to that kind of energy in general. That is one aspect. Now, there are a couple more points which I came across recently. So there is this whole method acting thing, right? So method acting thing is that you become like the character. You live that character 6 months. So you are, you play that character, like you are drink like the character, eat like the character, you live like the character for a 6 month or long time, but you immerse yourself very strongly. And then you act it out on the screen. And those actors are very powerful. Those performances are very powerful and all that. And, these natives end up making big money and all that after that. So especially those actors and so forth. Now, this is a method acting thing also has its pros and cons. So like the actor can channel various energies from different lokas and so forth, also quite easy. So if you channel a negative character, you might have some consequences with that. If you channel a positive character, you can get a lot of blessings with that also. But actors do their job in terms of performing and all that. But there are consequences to the energetic actions you do. Simple as that. So this method acting thing is something also I've seen. where they might actually fall from their place and so forth because they have channeled some energies which are not great for them. That kind of acting, you might say. So usually if they're playing out negative characters, some problems in their family and all that might also come because of that energy which they're bringing and all that. So if you're playing like a scandalous man and all that, so, you know, you need not be surprised if your marriage is going into scandal immediately, a couple of years later and whatnot, similar to that. So that kind of karma can play out. So this method acting was very interesting. You know, it's a very interesting thing which I thought, because sometimes this potential fall, and that's why these natives had to have codes. Like, you know, I cannot channel this thing. I need to limit myself. I cannot completely surrender and all that in that particular way in terms of characters. However, in terms of spirituality and all that, this is where method acting is a perfect thing to do in terms of, like, you know, getting enlightened. You actually have to surrender yourself to that particular energy of the divine and so forth, in which you finally get moksha and all that because of that. Now, Bharani is also the sexual organ and all that. So sexual organ diseases and so forth can actually happen. It's a typical thing, especially if you have malefics there. Sexuality kind of thing. So elephant. Now, elephant is very interesting. Now, Aditya shared the elephant. In Kerala, there was a big scene recently, like where one elephant that has gone berserk had to be controlled by 5 other elephants and so forth. So it had to be a group effort to control one elephant and all that. So it was a big news and so forth, actually. So finally, that it was a 6-hour operation to get 5 elephants to, like, push one elephant into a truck and take it and put it in a much more friendlier, you know, animals and all that. So sometimes these natives will have animal karma, like elephants and so forth. So curse of an elephant or a blessing of an elephant also can be linked with Bharani nakshatra also. So you might see that. So that is also one more aspect. Now, I think I'm more or less done, but there are a couple more points. Now, Dr. Pai also mentioned, you know, I mean, Aditya also briefly mentioned about karma with siblings and all that. Now, if you know Game of Thrones, now spoiler alert, now Game of Thrones, the first episode is basically sexual relationship or incestuous relationship between the brother and the sister, actually. And that's the whole thing. That's what is actually coming to an end in the entire Game of Thrones and all that and so forth. And towards the end also, even there's a potential for an incestual kind of thing going on, but they're like, no, you can't continue it and all that, which is what happens also. Now, so this kind of potential for that is definitely there. So usually it could be like a relationship, incestuous kind of thing, potential that to happen. So being aware about that and avoiding that is usually recommended, because children, as was mentioned, genetically will be deformed and all that. So that kind of karma potentially can happen. Now, it's interesting in Egypt and so forth, there used to be a time when breeding would happen within the family, and then eventually that family completely died off also. So that's not also completely healthy kind of thing. So you see that. Now, of course, land of the dead, land where the dead people are venerated, karma with those lands can also be something which Bharani nakshatra might have. They might end up going to Egypt. They might end up going to see some tombs of some saints and so forth, and all that can also happen. Now, this is a very interesting point. Now, usually the sexual organ of the female is what is symbolized in Bharani, but the sexual, what is the Shivlinga actually? The Shivlinga is actually like a simple ellipsoid shape. Now, what is interesting about the Shivlinga is that now, of course, eventually the symbol ellipsoid shape, eventually they put it on a yoni and all that. That's sexual energy. The energy of creation is something you have with the Shivlinga. That's a very powerful thing also. Now, and of course, lingam is the sexual organ, as it's called in Sanskrit and Hindi and all that. Now, what is interesting is that the sounds linked with Bharani nakshatra is actually li, lu, and le, and lo. So anytime you see these words, li sound, lu sound, le sound, or lo sound, 100%, there's a very powerful Bharani energy there. In fact, someone actually once told me that there was a social worker who was a saint kind of thing, who was working with children who had who could not walk and all that, and he found that the most common sound in their name was the li sound actually. Now, and it was in Punjab or something, so if the name had Harleen or something, or Livia or something like that, good chance that they had a problem with Saturn there. They could not walk and all that. And one of the first things which this saint would do is that he would say, make sure you change the name to a different name. Now, from today onwards, your name is not Harleen or Livia or something. Your name is going to be some other name, which is much more gentler name and all that. So you see that. Now, fascinating thing is that in Chinese language also, li as a word means separation actually. So you see that. So you'll see this kind of concept of separation kind of thing happening. So they'll say when friends are coming together, they should actually have they should not actually they should not separate the fruits that they're eating. Everyone should eat the fruit completely in circle and make sure the fruits are completed. Make sure the fruits are not actually separated is one of those things they actually say. It's a very interesting thing in Chinese culture in with regard to that. Now, so the words li, lu, le, and lo. So the lu sound, going to lu, for instance, empty vowels and all that. But Louis names and so forth, right? You'll see Bharani themes happening very strongly there. Now, even the lay sound is also very powerful sound. So like you have a lot of interesting things happening with the lay sound. Now, the other thing is also, for instance, I mean, now usually when you are not feeling great, you begin to see you say you're feeling low, right? And that's the final sound of Bharani, which is low also. So that's also one more thing you begin to see. So Bharani is also very interesting in that particular way. You see there were some words like Levi's, for instance, that's a jeans, that's a company, and that guy actually had a good plant in Bharani or something like that, which he was able to capture, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see that also. Now the final thing I want to share is basically what Aditya also talked about briefly, but I'll talk about this temple because in Kerala. Now this temple in Kerala, what is interesting about Kerala is that you celebrate your birthday on your nakshatra day actually. So whatever nakshatra you are in, so say you're Chitra nakshatra or something, you will actually say my birthday, you go to a temple on the Chitra nakshatra day to do the rituals and so forth and all that. So it's a nakshatra based rituals are very powerful. So nakshatra based events are more stronger actually. Now in that context, I'll just share my screen. This particular goddess temple. So this particular goddess temple is actually is called as Kodungalur. The Kodungalur goddess temple actually has a very famous festival called as Kodungalur Bharani festival. So of course, what the name means is that the festival is happening Bharani Nakshatra day. And what they have is that it's a yearly festival dedicated to Bhadrakali and Kodungalur. It's held between Bharani days between months of Kumbham and Meenam. So that sun is in Kumbha Rashi and sun is in Meena Rashi. Now, this period falls between the months of March, April, and all that. It involves sacrifice of roosters, which is like Bharani Nakshatra, dance of the oracles, cow dindal. So you have shamanic kind of men, people who are living in two worlds and all that, men and women actually, like in a traditional lamb, Revati Volka, singing of libellous ballads, Bharani Patan. Now, they say, at this point, you're cursing the goddess. You're swearing at the goddess at this point. So it is a pure Saturnian kind of energy, which you're directing towards this goddess actually. And smearing the image of the goddess with sandalwood paste and so forth. So these are the rituals there. Now I just want to show you this actually. And you have the rituals. One is the sacrificing the rooster over a red silk cloth and all that. It symbolizes the fight between goddess Kali and the opponent Dharika. So the concept of Kerala certain Bhadrakali temples is that the goddess is defeating the Dharukasura actually. That is the origin for that. Now they do say this ritual is not being performed. It's reduced to covering stones with red silk coat. But this rituals happen just with one rooster now actually. Used to be, there were lots of roosters. Now they just do it one rooster, if I'm not mistaken. There is also a very interesting thing here. Now let me show you the thing. So you can see one of the festivals, can you see the oracles and all that? Are you seeing the picture? Yeah, okay, great. So you can see people are actually running with sticks in their hand. Used to be, it would actually be swords in their hand and all that. So let me try to see. Yeah, so this is one aspect. So people would actually have sticks in their hand and go around. Now, what is Yamaraj's Ayudh? What is his weapon? A stick, right? So it makes sense. It's a Bharani Day festival and all that. You can see they just run, they're swearing at the goddess when they're running and all that. They run around the goddess 3 times. So a lot of people do it and all that. Now, of course, this is the aspect where they're covering the goddess cloth, one of these stones with a red silk cloth. So the red color of Bharani and all that is something you're going to see. So of course, natural fascination with red color and all that can happen. And here they actually throw the roof of the temple covered in turmeric. So you do all the rituals and so forth. Finally, you throw turmeric upon the temple. So you do a lot of Mars-based rituals, which is red color. And finally, you're throwing Jupiter-based thing to purify that energy and so forth. So a lot of blood has been shed. Let's get some lesson out of it, which is Jupiter. So that's also one of the things you see here. And again, so the flag of a cow tindal. So before the people actually start running around the temple, there's a red flag that is also going up. This is a very important thing. So Rahu is the umbrella. And this is a red umbrella. Sorry, a red umbrella that is actually goes up. And from that point on, the festival actually begins. Now, this is a very interesting thing. So I wanted to, even in the other Wikipedia page about this temple, they say this is the original. So if you look at this page, this particular temple is supposed to be the head of 64 Bhadragali temples in Kerala, especially in Malabar region and so forth. So Malabar is the northern Kerala actually, not from Cochin to these northern Kerala is basically Malabar actually. You can see that. Now, as I mentioned, one holding the head of demon king Daruka and the sickle-shaped sword, next an anklet and the bell, and all that. Routine worship at temple at 3 a.m. and 21 p.m. and all that. Now, here I want to show this is the goddess actually. You can see the Kali is here in a different way. So it's a lot of weapons and Ugra Rupa and all that. Very, very fierce form actually. That is one aspect. But the other picture I want to show you was this particular thing. So usually you can see here a woman is actually having the sickle on her and the sickle sword actually, the moon sword as it's called. And she basically has cut on her head and all that. So there are other women within whom they feel inclined towards the goddesses. They wear the
sickle is actually Maga nakshatra shape. If you see the front head of it, it's a Maga nakshatra. Very recent Maga nakshatra.
Yeah, very interesting. So they have the sword and all that, and of course the men would also the goddess might speak through a man or through a woman, shaman and all that. So the shaman, once they wear the red color, that is when the shaman is supposed to have shamanic trance is supposed to be entered actually. You will see that they actually jump up and down in a rhythmic fashion and so forth. It's like it's hard to capture them. It's like you're dealing with a completely off the world entity and all that. And you see the people literally running around and so forth. This is the same thing. So even the shamans also run around the temple along with the men. That's also one of the things that happen. So that's also one of the things I want to share actually. Now this is a temple which is famous for its Bharani festival actually. So Meenam Bharani and Kumbam Bharani as it's called, in Kerala. So you actually see. So many times in this particular temple has been following a different tradition, which makes it more powerful. So, and this is the head of the Kali temples among the 64 Kali temples. So a lot of karmas can be improved upon and all that. So it's interesting. And I want to show that also. So usually when you say Bharani, usually you think about this particular goddess actually in Kerala and all that. So, and this particular temple is a very, very powerful temple because of that also. Anyway, so this is what I have for Bharani. So I shared a lot. So, we could see a lot of things also. Yeah. Great. So this is it. Any comments by anyone? Any final points or anything like that?
No, I've seen there's some few points which some people with strong Bharani, you must have seen people wearing watches. No? This is when we were talking with Kapil. They will wear upside down something. Because again, Saturn is time basically.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So these natives might have a broken watch in their home, a watch showing the wrong time or wrong date or something. That's not good, right? So watch showing the wrong time is like you're ruining a Saturn actually. Saturn is not doing well for you. So ideally you dead the clocks and all that, very big problem. So usually when clocks are dying in the home, someone is about to die. Someone's time is up. That's what it usually means actually. So of course you need to fix it up very soon and all that. That's a typical thing. Yeah.
And also some people interested in skull. Like one I met once, I was in Uber and this driver, 1 or 2 skulls. First of all, who keeps skulls and all? Like he has got keychains of skulls. He has had diagrams of skulls. He has got pictures in the car. I said, why are you having so many skulls? Like I said, maybe, and I know it was maybe some Bharani. So I just asked, I became friends with him for some time and asked his birth date and all. And then I don't remember now, but when I came back, I was looking. He was a strong Bharani character too. So these people are interested with skulls and all,
Yeah, skull, of course. So I think Saturn is also, Saturn is also bones, right? If I'm not mistaken. So then you can have, is that right, Yuji?
Surya, guys.
Suresh,
I think
really?
a lot of the karkas of Shani's getting mixed up with Surya. I'm so sorry.
Interesting.
But I think it's just, Surya and medical. I mean, what do we really know? So I don't like to even say anything. You guys know me well. Once I read something, I don't forget. For whatever reason, it's stuck. So the Sanskrit text, like if you just want to go by the text, they say Surya is bones, Shani is muscle. Okay, that's what it says. It doesn't mean it's true. Okay, we don't know.
Right.
But that's what it is. I think a lot of the karkas of Shani and Surya, I hear like, this was confusing. That's even why I had to ask Dr. Pai Team, because if you just know this stuff, then you constantly hear Kal is Surya. I don't even know where I've seen Shani. Somehow this stuff gets, and then you don't know what you're saying, like what do we really know?
Aries and exalt start and debilitate. So that's why,
Correct, yeah, probably
a
that,
lot of Sun Surya today.
Yeah.
Well,
One more
it's also, sorry, Dr. Praju.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's also one of those things that I contemplate even saying anything at all because of the factor of how much we don't know. But I'll just say that you guys, once again, have known me for so many years. I've constantly said, wait a minute, so many things that are just getting said. Where do they come from? And then when you test them, they don't work. So like the Ucha Nicha, all of this stuff is not necessarily what people think it is. And then you just get so much of this that for me, because I'm more devotion based anyway, so I'm not really attached to the whole rigidity of this is this and this is that. But then I start just questioning, like, okay, wait, what's what? Because it could be like Shani is anything anyone says, and then Surya. But Surya is typically called Kal. Out of all the guys, like that's his name. He's usually, because this is why, guys, speculation. He never goes retrograde. He never waxes or wanes, and he marks the time. He will never go off course. He actually marks the ecliptic. So the other guys either go retrograde or they wax or wane, like the moon. So Surya is the only one that's steady and marks Kal. And he's literally called the Atma of Kal Purush. So see, I just happen to know all this Sanskrit, guys. I'm so sorry. So like when I'm listening, I'm going, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, as far as bones are concerned, that's typically a Surya thing. All over the texts at least. And then he's always structure. See, this thing with Shani being structure, I've never seen that either. What I have seen is that Shani is lazy. They don't say structure. They don't say taskmaster.
That's correct. Yeah, Saturn lazy.
They never say he's a taskmaster.
Yeah.
Now, is he a harsh judge in some stories? Yes, but as far as what they say, his qualities, his gunas, his defining features, muscle is not structure. Muscle is strength. And what strength is tolerance, patience, slowness, like the ability for the body to tolerate something is muscle. See, that is very different than bone. That's very different than structure. Now, they might seem like they work together, of course, the entire body does. But this is where it gets hard to actually give definitive teachings of any kind, because I have heard, like, I can barely talk to anyone about Rahu or Ketu because I'll hear this random weird stuff and I'm like, I don't know if I've even seen that happen in a chart, but everyone keeps repeating it. And so then you just feel like, I don't know what's left from right. I don't know anything. I'm just going to keep doing my mantras. I don't know anything.
But what is a skull? The skull is for Bharani, we can say, or not?
Yeah, I think it can be said, right? So skull is of course head and all that. Yeah.
One thing
the skull part.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say to you guys is, like just for students who are trying to learn, this is why I'm asking some questions, all that, because I know how much vidya each one of you have, and it's deep because, we know each other, and I know we can just banter, right? When we're going into things like nakshatras and like Purva Falguni is technically the having of children.
That's right. Yeah.
Technically, it is the sexual act. It literally is represented by a woman on top of a man doing that. That's literally what it is. There's no subtlety. They didn't have that shame, right? Why shame? Shame and humility, I think they're opposite ends of the spectrum. I think if we're very humble about what human life is, then there's no shame in saying what human life is, right? It's full of life and death. It's full of, it's a beautiful mess, right? So in Purva Falguni, we have the actual act of that taking place. And in Bharani, there's a lot of reference. And once again, guys, you have to know I'm like I think I'm the nerd here, where I just happen to have all this stuff here, the Sanskrit. It's very commonly referred to with Bharani as the menstruation, because that's a funeral.
Yeah. Right.
That's a funeral for the egg that didn't get fertilized.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, but it is also the birth process because of reincarnation itself. So it's heavily linked with death still. That's the thing, is Upabarni Shakti actually literally means to remove something. It's removing the prana from the body to make it cold. Technically, what it's doing is removing the Agni. How you define a dead body is it's cold. The Agni, the furnace is gone. So you'll see a lot of this is Upabarni, but no, pregnancy. See, this can be confusing to students, because everything you guys said is correct. It's nothing like that. It's there, but when you go to make these distinctions, then how do you do it? Because you have Purva Falguni, which is that. Then you have Bharani, which is that. So Bharani, for the students that are trying to make that distinction, it's more linked with the taking away of life, or taking away the light of life, and the putting of the light of life in a womb and trapping it in a body. That's it. The restraint, because the female reproductive is full of restraint. It's all muscle. It's a tiny, tiny little place that life comes out. You know, if you think about it, it's almost it's a miracle of some sorts. It's the most otherworldly thing you can imagine. Think about it. You're like giving, something's coming out of another body. When you really think about it. And that area is interesting. Saturn is muscle. It's all that. And then Uterus is like this kind of smooth muscle, whatever it is, but it restrains and holds life inside of it. And then the muscles literally push it out. So it's all dealing with that kind of, you have no control. That's a very interesting factor of Bharani. I just want to say those features of Bharani, we have no control. Birth, death, this is where your free will is. I was really meditating on many things you guys said. I was deeply listening. When Dr. Paiji started talking about Ichcha Shakti, I thought that was so fascinating, because that's willpower. Like he said, it's that creative force. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, Bharani actually defeats that. It must be that itself. Its will is more powerful than the human's will, because the human cannot will another minute to their life. I mean, there's rare scenarios. Okay, we hear these stories, but they're considered rare miracles. Most of us are going to go out when the time the clock is up, and it might be a relief. See, it might be freedom. And then I'm just saying, maybe we don't know for sure, but those of us who have tasted death at all could probably speak to the fact that you may not want to come back in here. This thing, to this, once again, the head, get rid of the head. Get rid of this thing is the limitation. Everyone thinks it's the infinite thing, but no one wants to come back to this thing if they lose it. Okay, so you're taken out. It's not like willpower. The Bharani itself, what Dr. Paiji said was really profound. I was really thinking about it, because I was going, oh yeah, this is where you are losing something else is expressing its will upon you in birth and death. So when we're talking about Bharani and Yama, and even how we had that weird segue about the time and the Rahu column, that was really fascinating when Dr. Paiji was saying that, because once again, what did we do the mantra for Yama? Dakshina Dikpati is the directional Lord of the South. And Dr. Paiji brings this rare knowledge, which doesn't sound like anything we've heard. I mean, at least we've talked about. And it's dealing with Rahu. I mean, all these things have been very significant. but then you've got to make the distinction. Then they're going to have it. So Bharani, interestingly, I would just say that for those studying, the reproductive element is really, really powerful in Bharani. But one thing in one of my slides, if you guys took screenshots, or I can put the PDF on my website if guys want it. If you missed something, maybe I'll just do that, okay? Just for anyone who's really that interested. In Yamalok, in Yamapuri, there is a mandir for every disease.
Right.
Okay, so they're celebrated like a divinity.
Mhm.
But what's good for one isn't good for another. To Yama, maybe a disease is good because it's
Right.
helping his job. So we might not like it, but we're so so anyway, if you think about it that way, you will see a lot of gynecological problems, issues, problems with the womb, problems with the menstrual cycle, or in a very distinct relationship with the menstrual cycle. And remembering, for a menstruating female, that is a form of a funeral. Dr. Lod is famous for saying that. He would say that in Ayurvedic class. He said that so many times. I didn't come up with that. He would say it's a funeral for the one that didn't get fertilized. So
I'm seeing a lot of people with abortion rights and all this have
maybe see that.
Bharani.
Yeah,
Bharani. I've just tested 2-3 charts now. Many
yeah.
people
Oh,
with
okay.
abortion.
See, that makes more sense, because I was trying to draw the distinction there between the procreative Purva Falguni and the actual, Purva Falguni perhaps even has more willpower available to the individual because of Bhaga and because of the difference of the Devata, whereas Dr. Paiji's point about Itcha Shakti might be dead on, that this nakshatra is that the actual Shakti that deals with some kind of will. Maybe it's not our independent it's just Shakti, but it is something to do with but maybe people born under it do have an extra dose of that will. So this is the things we have to think about, like what is coming into play here. Birth and death, you are subjected most of the time in very rare scenarios. And so interestingly, people fighting for control over their body, like abortion, fighting for that control, that's interesting, because yogis, if you think about, I saw so many yogis with this Bharani moon. I mean, Krishnamacharya most likely has a Bharani moon. One time it sets him into Kritika, but same thing with Iyengar. Many of these guys are Bharani, and a lot of them will have Makara with it. Almost every yogi I've done the chart for has had strong Makara. I mean, even down to Baba Ram Das, like he has a lot of Makara. So you'll see this combo, interestingly enough, in these guys quite a bit. At least one planet in Makara. Very odd. I just spot codes like that. But Bharani, it is interesting. If yogis are having it, what are yogis doing? They're gaining control over themselves. So back to this willpower and back to this almost supernatural element of wanting.
Another thing which you say, EJ, I would like to point, because now you have to clear the confusion between the Bharani and the Dhanishta. Dhanishta also we say child loss and all those things. So now,
Abortion.
we got Purva Falguni and Bharani, but how we will say Bharani difference than Dhanishta in terms of this? Any thoughts on that?
Dhanishta tends to, it almost seems to somehow make a repetition of losing the children. Please, we don't want to be scaring people. This doesn't happen. This, guys listening to this doesn't happen all the time. Something different is going on with Dhanishta. It's where Mangal is Ucha. And in Ayurvedic texts, they always pray to Kartikeya and Mangal for akala mrityu, like don't take my children, don't kill the child in the womb, don't kill the child in this. And that's what you'll see a lot of this with the Kritika Nakshatra, Dhanishta, even though there's Bhishma's story. For whatever reason, these stories seem to play out in our lives. So it might even be the parents of the Dhanishta native too. So you just have to do a study on it. Bharani, I'm not so sure I would even relate to necessarily always abortion. That's such a private matter, by the way, to just like start speaking on it. But perhaps people who fight for the rights. See, Dr. Paiji's point I'm kind of hinging on, it was pretty brilliant with Icha Shakti, because fighting for justice, that's forcing the will, you know, fighting for rights over your body when someone else is taking
The charts which I tested were the activists who were fighting for
that's what
legalization
I'm
of
wondering.
abortion.
If it's the people that want to fight is now.
Or legalize abortion. So
And
that's what
talking like a topic like this, you're going to have about 5 people comment saying, I'm Bharani and I've had this happen. But that doesn't mean we're not going to look at 50 charts and every nakshatra, women have abortions, women have miscarriages, women with things like this. We have to be really careful and make sure the statistics line up. But you can make sense of certain things if you see them over and over. For instance, all of you guys, I'm very serious, have had really brilliant, subtle points tonight that just kind of clicked. Like even with Sandeep Ji was saying about the Uttara Falguni, my grandmother has been celebrated in the city that I'm from for preserving cemeteries. She took my mom and her sisters to cemeteries when they were young. Okay, so my mom tells the story, but my grandmother was married to an Uttara Falguni. My grandfather was an Uttara Falguni. She's a Bharani. And they preserved cemeteries together. Okay. So I mean, this literally ended up playing out. Okay, so it's interesting. When someone says something, listen, even if you think you know that you oh, I don't know how that is. That's why I didn't even want to say anything about the Surya with the bones, or just because we read it doesn't mean it's true. You know, so I know this stuff. But that doesn't mean it's true. We should always be willing to learn. But yeah, fighting for rights is a big Barney thing. Now that the whole thing with Barney, I've seen hyper creative people. Now that is true. Very, very creative people. So Purva Falguni and Barney both share this big burst of creative energy, definitely. In different ways, but sometimes almost in a similar way. They both can be dancers, for instance. I've seen so many dancers under both Bharani and Purva Falguni. So they both can be really good dancers, things like that. So you will see this. It's interesting because Yama is called Kal, and all the dance arts are called Kal. It's Kala and Kala. It's you just move the and around. And usually in Sanskrit, when words do this, they have a similar relationship. And if you look at the dance of life, life is a drama. In so many ways, it is a drama. It is a dance. It's intricate. And so I don't know. I mean, art is such a big part of life and the expression of the soul. I just Bharani and Purva Falguni both have this very strong. But the point is you'll see different, whatever people are referring to as karma palam. So this karma pala will play out differently according to Purva Falguni because it's going to affect partnership more. It doesn't always affect the womb as much, the actual uterus or the reproductive organ. I mean, it could. See, once again, you have to be careful with these black and white things. But Bharani definitely has a lot of these karmas with this reproductive the cycle, the menstrual cycle. I hear this on a constant basis throughout my years of doing Jyotish. With female Bharani, you will see that play out quite a bit for whatever reason. And you know, a lot of ancient tradition.
I have seen people, female charts having strong Libra, 3-4 planets in Libra. Those female charts I've seen having issues with menstrual cycles and all.
Now
A
that
lot.
makes sense though, because this is Shukra's Mula Trikona. So we do have to remember that some things make sense just because of the simplicity of what they are. Like that is Shukra's Mula Trikona, Tula Rashi. And it is the natural Muladhara. So I mean, it does have that natural 7th house thing. And then
They're also aspecting Bharani, you know.
I was
when
going to
they're in-
say, to your points that you guys always bring up about the opposites, that is very true. So there's that too, but that makes sense. Tula Rashi always has a sensual element to it because of being Shukra's home, you know. So see, moon is more related to Vrishab and Taurus than Shukra. Moon is your first food. It's your first nourishment. That's 2nd house. Moon is the face with the Indriyas. That's the 2nd house. Moon is habits. That's the 2nd house. So see, moon has in early childhood, that is the 2nd house. And the moon subjects you to however the parents want to treat you. Once again, your will is taken away. So things dealing with birth and death, your will is taken away. And so one of the big features of birth and death is you're helpless. Most of the time you're completely, at least what we see as helpless. They're, once again, extraordinary scenarios, but most of us are pretty subjected. Okay, so moon tends to subject us. I know everyone talks about the moon being emotional. That doesn't really work in Jyotish, guys. I'm really sorry. I mean, you'll think you're reading someone, but you might just be psychic. You have to watch out. You have to look at if you're really looking at the detail and be honest with yourself. Am I just psychic or am I really seeing this? Because the more you look at the moon, what you're going to see is people tend to be very subjected to whatever the moon does, like they're subjected to birth. So same thing. This is just through my research. I could be wrong. And I'm happy to be wrong, as I have nothing to gain from being right. It's a losing game here, guys. I'm happy with the losing hand. So, but you know, just in case students are really trying to make distinctions, I would say all of you guys look at nakshatras that have these similar themes, and then you're going to start seeing the few defining features that are there. And they're usually not personality features like people assume. They'll be actual events that come through a person's life. Like marriage, and marriage or not marriage tends to be such a huge theme of the Falgunis. You know, no marriage or marriage and children, like it's a theme somehow. So you'll notice the theme of the Falgunis, and then you have they're the birth star Brihaspati in many of the mantra shastras, mantra, like the shlokas. You'll see this, like it'll go, oh, Brihaspati's born in Purva Falguni or Uttara, usually Purva Falguni. Mangal sometimes can be born in Purva Falguni or Purva Ashara, but it's usually Brihaspati. He's born in Dhanishta and Purva Falguni. They'll say this over and over, those two stars. So you have to think about that too. Whereas Rahu's born in Bharani.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I will have to drop off because the family is waiting for dinner.
Yes, it's also late.
Yeah. No, I think we'll just call at the end actually. So thank you, Dr. Pai, and thank you, Aditya, and thank
no,
you.
I didn't mean to interrupt. If you can carry on, I'll just drop off. But you guys can carry on with with this.
You had a point, Dr. Pai. Something you had to say? Or?
No. It was very quickly. I will make one point which I liked what Sandeep was saying, and what even Evji was saying. I wanted to add one more point before I leave because they're waiting. Okay. See, in largely in the northern part of India, they worship Kalima. Okay. As you come towards the Kerala, he already showed us that there is Bhadra Kali and there is Bhagavati. But if you come to southern part of India, there is a kind of deity who is called as a Yellamma. She's also called as Ikvira Devi. She's also called as Gangamma or Mariamma as well. Every village in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, or Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and western part of Maharashtra will have her temples. Now, who is she? She's Renuka Devi. Now, Renuka Devi, if you understand, also has the same principle that we have already said. Her father, King Renu, didn't have children, so he made a grand sacrifice from the fire, she emerged. Okay, that's point number one. Second thing is, when she was 8 years old, Agastya Rishi said, please have her married to Jamadagni. 8 years, again, number 8 is very significant. Third is, she had 5 children. Out of that, the 5th child was Bhargava Rama, who is Parashurama. And, Jamadagni asked him to behead his mother, Renuka Devi. Okay, so this beheading concept is coming very strongly with the deities that you are worshipping. So even last point, before I go, hard stop, sorry guys. What I liked about EFG's thing is, you see there is an elephant there and she has Varahi, which is sitting there. Now, Varaha avatar is who brought up the earth, which means probably Mrityu Loka was sinking and there was no need for it, but he said, no, we want this Loka, and he has brought up. So Varahi is this energy, which is the fertility and the strong energies that you see with Varaha Swami, who wanted to bring Mother Earth, which is again the Prithvi Tattva, the fertility, what we're talking about, Icha Shakti. I think, just to summarize, I want to say this nakshatra has completely to do with the Shakti, which means the 51 Shakti Pitas or Sati, Mata Sati, and all different forms of Matrikas. So this is mostly, I think, is the culmination of the powerful energies of creation, because there is nothing that can manifest in this world without Shakti, because she is the physical manifestation. Shakta, which is Shiva, is the unmanifested. So anything that we need to manifest in this world, we need the creative energies, which is, you can say it is a procreative energy or a creative energy. So you would say that poets are very creative, but poets, like Kali Das, which means he is a great devotee of Kali. Even Tenali Rama was said to be blessed with the intellect that he had in Krishna Deva Raya's thing has come from Kalima. So Bharani Nakshatra is holding intellect, which is Savitri, which is the Saraswati's energy plus Kali's energy. And it can make you very, very creative. Like Evji said, all the Venus Nakshatras. See again, Bhargava Rama, he is an incarnation of the 6th avatar, which is connected to Shukra, Venus.
Oh, and Vara is linked with Rahu.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I've got already 5 phone calls. I have to go. I have to scoot now. So thank you very much. I will see you guys. Okay. Namaste. Bye bye.
Thank you. Yeah, namaste, Dr.
Okay, guys, I also have to wrap
Yeah.
up.
So great. So I think we can wrap this up. So thank you, Yuji and Dr. Aditya Togi, for the wonderful
The other
discussion
thing,
we
last
had.
point was this butterflies,
Oh, really?
drawing of butterflies. You have
Yeah.
seen those team with
No.
the people.
Is that
I've seen.
really
Yeah,
interesting?
because talking to Kapiel Raaj.
Oh, and
Yeah,
the
butterflies do make sense. Cocoon and all that, So they do have a
rebirth.
pupa stage and all that. That
And
particular thing.
colors again, Venus.
Yeah. So makes sense. Bharani Nakshatra natives do have a pregnant thing going on, right? So they at least feel pregnant or whatnot. So makes sense. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's a nice Bollywood movie of 4 hours.
4 hours, yeah, total proper 4 hours. Great.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Okay, great then. Namaste.
Great.